ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
Team race latched on the one yet?
There's been a few. The favorite one I would say is Crocodile, because my pet alligator. I would say that's probably the big one coming into it.
Yeah!
All right, a Tuesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. We'll talk some Chiefs today. We'll talk some Royals today. Some college football mixed in. Les Norman joins us in the noon hour, breaking the norm. We'll talk with him about the Royals, where they stand right now, the game last night, pitching matchups moving forward, offense moving forward. We'll do that coming up at noon with Les Norman for the 12 o'clock hour. Adam Teicher will join us at 1 o'clock, typically at 11 o'clock on Tuesdays, but with the Chiefs press conferences going on today at 11 o'clock up in St. Joe. 3 practices remaining there in St. Joe. So we'll hear from the Chiefs. We'll hear from Matt Nagy and whoever else will be at the podium today. So the Chiefs offensive coordinator, we'll hear from him, and we'll talk some Chiefs as well. But that comes up at 11 o'clock. Chiefs press conferences coming up at noon, Les Norman, and then 1 o'clock, Adam Teicher. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810, the text line to join us. Cloudy, rainy.
I have to say something.
Sort of
I missed
sad.
you. I missed you,
Did
Jason.
you? Oh,
Yes.
thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm used to looking at your face,
Is
and
that
I had to
right?
look at Dylan's.
I know, right?
and
Yeah, that
it's
makes
just-
it makes a difference. It does, and I get to look at your face and Dylan's.
Yeah, so now you get both.
I get both. You know, it is both.
I mean,
Sterling
what do you
and
choose?
Dylan.
Your wife and your kids, or me and Dylan? I mean, that's the real question.
Yeah, that's a real tough one. That's a real Sophie's choice there. I'm not really sure what I'm going to have to do. I think I'll go wife and kids on that one. Sorry, Dylan. Sterling.
Oh, man.
I'm going to choose.
But it's close, though, Dylan.
Yes.
It's close.
Let me tell you, it came down to the last couple of seconds before I finally decided which way I would go, and I just reached for the wife and kids. Sorry about that. You know?
Hey, they have tenure over us, so, you know.
They're
That's
not-
how it works.
No, neither of them are a 10. But I will still choose them over your ages.
It's okay. We still have time to get put in the will, Jason. We still have time.
Where there's a will, there's a way, but not for you guys. Sorry. Dylan, maybe.
I was
Sterling,
going to say,
got a long way to go.
I think I've got a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah, you got a head start. You got a head start. You know, make sure you don't lose that head start.
Less is
though.
more
I
back
mean,
here. Less
you know,
is
it's
more.
a tortoise
Yeah.
in the hair. You know,
Exactly.
right now, don't get too confident. Don't get too cocky right now. I say that to my kids as well. You know, hey,
Well,
you get too cocky, you might lose out on that $1,500 coming your way in the will, huh? What are you going to do then?
I think he'd be the tortoise and I'd be the hare because of the
You would be the hare.
bald.
Yeah, he would be the tortoise.
Yeah.
But the tortoise is winning here.
Yeah.
It's not really how the story goes.
Right.
I'm just taking a nap, I
But
guess.
boy, are you guys going to be disappointed if you end up in the will. Sterling, you got my microphone cover.
Wow.
There you go.
15%
Right there.
off coupon to Kohl's.
My Kohl's cash that
Kohl's
expired
cash.
in 2022.
Yeah.
There you go.
They'll probably, you know what? Honestly, knowing them, they'll allow it. They'll
They'll go and honor it
they'll
still.
honor it still.
And they actually give out 30% off, so that's my bad, actually.
Yeah,
So.
idiot. Come on, it's
What am I-
Kohl's, man.
what am I
are you,
thinking?
what are you talking about? I do love Kohl's cash. It's like you can spend this on August 14th between the hours of 1 and 2 p.m. at this specific location, as long as it's raining.
I'm convinced Jason goes to Louisville because that's only where his Kohl's cash works.
Is that right?
It's just a, like back to school, get clothes
One hell
shopping.
of a trip to save 20%. I doubt that's going to happen. I
You
doubt
buy
that.
enough, it makes sense though.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
it's bulk,
I-
buying in bulk. It's like the Costco.
I mean, I
version
guess.
of this.
Yeah, I guess that's probably one way of looking at it. But no, we'll get into the show here. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Disappointing night last night. Obviously, opportunities there for the Royals. They'll continue to be there for the Royals. 119 games that they have played so far. It's getting into crunch time. Month and a half left to go. They still lead in the wild card by a game and a half. It's weird because it doesn't feel that way. Because they lose 2 of 3 to the Red Sox. They avoid the sweep. they split with the Cardinals. But if you're not scoreboard watching, you weren't seeing the Red Sox lose at home to the Astros. And the Guardians lose to the Diamondbacks. And then on Sunday, it didn't really matter what happened except for, the Red Sox game in which they lost. But with the Guardians and the Twins, either way, the Royals were benefiting from that. Somebody had to win, somebody had to lose, and the Royals would not lose that day. So they were going to gain a game on somebody. They gained a game on the Twins, and they lose a game last night to the Twins, both literally and then in the standings as well. So now they sit 5 games back of the Guardians, and they sit a couple of games back in the standings behind the Twins, which is obviously unfortunate because you'd like to have a little bit. It's a game and a half specifically, but 2 games up on the wild card, game and a half back from the Twins. You'd like to be closer because you'd like to have that second wild card spot. Heck, you'd like to win the division, and that's the issue really if we're talking about missed opportunity. The missed opportunity is that the Royals are 5-5 in their last 10, and the Guardians are 3-7.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned it since they went on that 8-game winning streak. I'd have to look at the math as to the last time when I actually looked that up. I think it was last Thursday that we looked that up, that they were 16-21 since going on the 3-game losing streak. And that was on Thursday, so they are 3-2 since then. So 19-23 since winning 8 in a row. So they've played 4 games under 500 in that time. The Royals have gained 4 games on them because the Royals were 9 games back at that time. But they missed a huge opportunity when the Guardians lost 7 straight games.
Yeah.
That, Cleveland loses 7 straight games and the Royals gain a couple games on them.
Because they went 2-4, right? And then I'm trying to think what happened before. They would so 3-4, I guess, is what it was. What it was.
I mean, it's and so now they sit 5 games back. They're within striking distance. They have to find ways to win some of these games and to make winning plays. That's what it comes down to. Last Monday and Tuesday against the Red Sox, they did not make winning plays. They made losing plays. And last night, they did not make a winning play. And then that was exacerbated by a pitcher that could not command his pitches. And the issue wasn't he's not commanding his pitches, so he's walking guys. He's not commanding his pitches and leaving them over the middle of the plate or leaving them in a hittable spot to good hitters. A winning play is Renfroe making a throw from right field.
Sure.
It's a winning play. Make the throw. It's Santana. 80% of the time, that should be an out.
Yeah.
That should be an out. But for some reason, he slips. And it's just one of those are you bleeping me? Are you kidding me? He slips and falls or slips and loses his balance and barely gets it back into the infield on 2 bounces?
Just spikes it.
Against the Red Sox, Isbell and Massey making, plays that are just are you kidding me? You boot an easy ground ball? You overthrow second base from 30 feet away? At times, that's what the second inning felt like, right? When he slips and falls, it's good God. Would we bringing back the 100 lost teams? Where's Ken Harvey getting hit in the back? Where's Ken Harvey and Jason Grimsley colliding? Where's Chip Ambrose dropping the ball in left field with 2 outs to snap what ended up being a 19-game losing streak? I think they had only lost 11 at that time. They'd only lost 11 in a row at that point.
Only?
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's 1 inning, guys. Just 1 inning. Sterling, if you take that inning away, the Royals won 3-2 last night. Why are we focusing on the negative all the time? They won 3-2. Does that not count? Can you not do that in Major League Baseball? Can you not take away? Can they not get a half win for 8 innings? 8 of the 9 innings, they won 3-2. Does that not count?
Banana ball, that works.
Okay.
If that's banana ball, so they had a banana
fantastic.
style, yeah. Shockingly, they're not playing that.
Yeah, because then the Royals would have won 3 innings, and the Twins won 2 innings.
Yeah.
The Royals won 3-2. The Twins got 6 innings in the second. The Royals only got 1. Oh, no, it was 2-2. It's a tie game, so they split the game. Because one of those runs scored in the second for the Royals, the Twins got 6 runs in that inning. The Royals won the first inning 1-0, and they won the 6th inning 1-0.
It's a tie.
Twins won the second inning 6-1 and the 7th inning 2-0. That's 2-2 if you just look at innings won. That's a split of the game. Can we not do it that way? Because if you just eliminate the bottom of the 6th, not the top of the 6th, you can't eliminate the whole 6th inning. You only can eliminate the bottom of the 6th inning. Then the Royals win 3-2. If you eliminate the whole 6th inning, it's tied 2-2. Now you got to put a ghost runner on second, and it's a whole big crazy thing that you got to do at that point. But you can't. You can't eliminate the second inning. It happened. You didn't make a winning play. 2 outs, nobody on, up 2-0. And the 5 outs that you had recorded, 4 of them came by way of strikeout. And you were facing 7, 8, 9. In no world should that end up in a 6-run inning. 7, 8, 9 with 2 outs, nobody on. And they get 6 runs. Because of a walk to Carlos Santana, a single to Jeffers on an 0-2 pitch, Austin Martin singles, and Renfroe slips.
Sure.
They send Carlos Santana. I mean, you could hear in Ryan's voice, like, oh, they're sending Carlos Santana. And he's like, he was toast. He was absolutely
That's
toast.
such a good point. The voice, because I was listening to it on the radio.
Like, they're sending? They're doing what? They got the top number 1 hitters coming up, the All-Star. Number 1 hitters coming up to the plate. I know there's 2 outs, but you're sending Carlos Santana against a guy who has 6 outfield assists? I mean, he's graded out below average overall defensively and defensive runs saved, but he does have 6 outfield assists this year. I just can't picture one in my mind. He's got 6 of them. I just don't remember any of them. Like, I was floored. Because I went and looked. I'm like, how many assists? We talk about his arm. Like, how many assists does he have? 6? 6? When?
Well, I guess it counts cutoffs technically, too. It counts if he hits, let's just say it's...
No, it's only if you throw to the base and you get an out. That's an assist.
That would actually be the assist of the guy catching the cutoff.
Yeah, no.
They don't have it ruled in Major League Baseball for outfielders
hockey.
when you hit
No, it's not hockey.
your cutoff man. The cutoff man gets him at home.
Not a hockey assist. You got to specifically make the out with your throw.
You sure?
Promise you. But somehow he's got 6 of them, which is like the second most in right field. But while he has 6 of them, he's also -4 in defensive runs saved this year with 6 outfield assists.
I can remember him spiking the ball multiple times this year.
Right, and it's like that's one of the things he's there for, is to make that play. Again, that's a play that a winning team makes. And they haven't been making those plays. And it has cost them against good teams, because that's the difference between a win and a loss. If you don't make that play, it ends up being 6 runs. It doesn't have to be 6 runs, but you don't have somebody on the mound between the ears to flush it and get out of the inning. That's not Reagan's. It's not Waka. It's not Lugo. It's a guy on the mound that has shown you time and time again that when the going gets tough, he starts to melt. He starts to dissolve on the mound. And he did that. And there's no timeout. Let's get to halftime. Let's get to the quarter break. No, you're out there till you get 3 outs. And you can go and have the mound visit all you want, but you can't reset the inning. You can't go back and have an up-down. You can't sit down in the dugout and then come back out for another inning. You got to get the 3rd out. And he couldn't do it until 6 runs were put on the board. And he left one over the plate. And then to Royce Lewis on a 3-2 pitch. I don't think it was a terrible pitch.
Sure.
It was 91, right on the black on the inside. It was waist high, maybe not what he was looking for in terms of the height. But that's Royce Lewis being Royce Lewis. He's a phenomenal player. When he stays healthy, he is a difference-making player. He's not as good as Bobby Witt, but he is a difference-making player in the lineup for the Twins when he is healthy.
He's slugging at .664 this year.
Yeah, he's OPSing over 1,000.
He has 15 home runs.
Yeah, in what, 12 games?
160 like it's absurd when he's healthy. It's Aaron Judge basically.
Right, he is a dominant player. And on a 3-2 pitch, I know you want to get out of the inning, but it's also one of those to where you tip your cap. But the 3-run shot was over the plate and very hittable. That's the one you lost. Then you give up another hit. Then the 2-run shot, and it was over. When Royce Lewis swung the bat on that 3-2 pitch, well, he swung the bat a couple of times on 3-2 pitches, which I believe were bigger mistakes than the one he hit a home run on. There were a couple he fouled back that were like, ooh, Brady got away with one there. All right, and Rex even mentioned it a couple times. Rex is like, he's left a couple out there that, he's kind of got away with one here.
He is he's like Spider-Man. His home run senses were tingling.
Dude, yeah. And he left one at 91 over the plate, but again, it was on the black. I mean, I think the ball was like it was like covering up the line a little bit, right? The line on the inside part of the strike zone.
Sure.
The ball was right there. Like it wasn't over the middle of the plate. But again, it's finding a way to get out of that inning. And he couldn't. And it's been a theme with Brady Singer, not just like one inning killing him. That has been a theme in his career at times of, boy, Brady Singer, it's that 3rd inning. Brady Singer was the 4th inning that got him. We've had plenty of shows where we have talked about, man, Brady Singer, can he figure out how to get out of that one inning, that one jam? And we're still having that conversation. And I'd have to go back and look in the past of those innings, those games where the one inning got them, as to who they were against. Because there's a clear, stark contrast with Brady Singer in quote-unquote bigger games against better opponents, and then the lesser opponents that you're sort of expected to win. Like, hey, you got to go out there and win this game because this team isn't as good as some of the other teams you're going to be facing. He's pitched well in those games. There's a level of pressure, I guess, to a degree, on a pitcher that, hey, we have to win this game. All right, we can't lose to the White Sox. All right, we got to go and win this game, okay, no matter. And, hey, went out and pitched well. Great. Okay, you've got to win this game, right? You can't lose to this team. Okay, there's some pressure that goes along with that. But then there's the element of, this is a big game, a swing game in the standings. You need a big-time effort. You need somebody to go out there and give you a chance to win. And when Lopez is on the mound on the other side, a chance to win is not 6 runs in one inning.
No.
You're toast. It's over at that point. The game was over, and it was a matter of what do they do the rest of the way. Like, it was, like, I mean, I didn't watch the Chiefs game on Saturday. We were at my wife's high school reunion.
Did you text Mick to find out where you could find it in Louisville?
I wanted to.
You should have. I was trying to draft a tweet about,
wanted to.
like, congratulating him on being YouTube TV's, like, correspondent for the Kansas City area. Like, direct all your Twitter questions here.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I mean, I would have been able to watch it on the NFL Plus the next day.
Oh, that's right.
So I'd have watched it on Sunday, but I couldn't have watched it live because it would have been blacked out in the area on NFL Plus, because it would have been on NFL Network blacked out here because it was showing locally on channel 41 / actually 38.
Oh,
YouTube TV doesn't have 38. So
Did you text Mick about it?
I didn't watch it till last night. So I'm like, all right, once this game is over, I'm going to start watching the Chiefs game.
Oh, man, you were in for a treat then, huh?
Oh, Royce Lewis's home run. I started watching the Chiefs game. The Royals became background fodder at that point.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs game became the game I'm watching and rewinding, and I didn't watch it the way that, a lot of people watch it. I knew the result.
Sure.
I've read some things already about it. I tried to listen to a little bit of the show. But it's tough when you're driving in no man's land areas that have no reception, and
Oh, I've made that drive many a time,
A10 doesn't reach, Indiana and Illinois.
Wait, Mount Vernon? Doesn't go to Mount Vernon?
Money earned in Mount Vernon. No, it does not go there, or New York's Mount Vernon. Either one. It doesn't. No, there's no place that it reaches to there in Illinois. And so I tried to, listen in when I could, but read some things, so I had an idea of what to expect in the Chiefs game. So it was easier for me to watch a play, rewind it, watch it a little closer, rewind it, watch a little closer, rewind it. Okay, now I'll move on to the second play, right? And it's preseason. But that was my night. Once that home run by Royce Lewis left the yard, all right, it's Chiefs. I'm watching the Chiefs game now because, I didn't have to weigh in on the Chiefs today, as in yesterday. But I certainly need to be ready tomorrow. But it saved me like an hour's worth of sleep. Because I was able to go to bed a little bit earlier. I didn't have to wait till that game was over to really start the Chiefs game, so I could really pay attention to the Chiefs game and really get an assessment of what was happening while watching the Royals game closely. It didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the fact that Bobby took one high and tight at 95, and Brady Singer comes out and walks the first hitter.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, dude, you're at 80 pitches already. They were warming somebody up in the previous inning. Put one in his back.
Especially once you get to the 3 balls. And that was a full count. I get that. And at that point, it's 6-3 or 6-2.
I'm still 6-2 at that point.
6-2.
I mean,
I understand.
The game is over, dude. You're going to get a warning. You're not tossed from the game.
No.
You're going to get a warning.
You got to protect Bobby. I mean, and that's what it comes down to is he hits a home run, right? I guess he had one more at bat. He had a ground out? Was it his third? Was that his third?
That was his second.
Was that a second or third? I'm drawing a blank now.
Look, you talk.
It was either a second or third. I know he hit the home run. It's one of those situations where it's like
it was a ground out in the third.
The ground in the third, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to protect him. Like, you know what's going on here. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get almost in his head a little bit. It's a 3-game series. He hits one out already. So what are you going to do? They have the lead. They're gonna try and buzz him back.
6-2, 2 on, nobody out. Oh, you may be pitching around him anyway. All right, well, if we're going to pitch around him, let's just hit him.
Yep.
Or we can throw one inside to really brush him back, and if we lose control a little bit, we lose control and we hit him. We're going to pitch around him anyway.
It was a Diamondbacks game plan against Bobby.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times did Lopez come close to losing a pitch to anybody else in the game except for that one? It's the only one I can remember that he just happened to be the Royals' best player that already went yard in the first game of a 3-game series to sort of set the tone. You're up 6-2, there's 2 out, nobody on, and that's the one he happens to lose on the first pitch of the at-bat? Yeah, bull bleep. I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. There was nothing accidental about that. It might have been accidental as to how far inside it was.
Sure.
But wanting to brush him back, buzz the tower, if you hit him, you hit him, that was strategy. That was strategery. It was strategic by the Twins. And the Royals did nothing.
Yeah.
They did nothing the next inning.
Especially when you bring in Carlos Hernandez. If you're going to bring him in, now's the time. You know he's getting shelled either way. You know he's getting lit up. You might as well have him throw 99 in someone's back just to get Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis. Let them know that, hey.
I don't even need it to be like their stud. Like, I don't need it to be to where you start a fight. Where, now we're going to go after Byron Buxton and hit him.
Well, he might break.
Exactly. Or Royce Lewis.
He might break.
Exactly. So maybe you don't want to go after that. But Matt Wallner was the first guy up, and you walked him.
Yeah.
To be honest, I am going after that person because
You're going after Buxton or Royce Lewis?
That's the point.
Yeah,
I mean, that is the point. If we're defending Bobby for that reason, then yeah.
Buxton was the second man up that inning.
Yeah.
Wallner was the first man up, but also.
And here's the other thing. Guess what? You don't have to hit him. You could throw it 5 feet behind his head. And that's
or
not
head, his back.
Not his back. Come
My
on
bad.
now.
Yeah.
Come on now,
Behind
Dylan.
Dylan, you're a pitcher.
Yeah,
Jeez, Dylan.
That's the mindset.
Yeah,
is you're
right.
trying to not. You don't want to hit him at all. But you want to scare them, and you want to definitely send a message. And throwing behind them doesn't put a guy on. It gives you a ball. And if there isn't a runner on, it's just a warning.
The pitch that bothered me after the second inning, the pitch that bothered me the most was the bottom of the 5th inning. Matt Wallner up, leading off, a 3-0 count, and a fastball over the plate. You're down 3-0 already. Put one in his back. You're down 3-0. Hit him. You're not coming back from. He might put it in play. All right? But you're down 3-0 already. Odds are you're going to walk him, Brady. No. Fastball, slider, walk.
Yeah.
You put him on first anyway. Like,
we're not trying to hit people. We're not trying to, get in fights. But the opponent's game plan is obviously, hey, pitch inside on Bobby Witt Jr., and if you hit him, no one's going to do anything. So what you
especially
have
with
to,
2 outs, nobody on.
right.
Perfect time to do it.
Yep.
And so what you have to do to combat that, game plan is retaliate, because then you show people, hey, if you're going to throw inside, you better not hit him, because then our guy's going to get hit, and then it's going to start a whole issue, and we're going to have to do fines and suspensions and yada yada. You're not trying to. This is the policing of the game that they kind of allow by letting the guy run out to the mound in the past, or seeing all the big fights or whatever. Like, it's kind of like hockey-ish.
Yeah.
They need Kyle Farnsworth. If you're going to have Carlos Hernandez on this roster, this is what he should be there for.
Honestly, like it was Singer's last inning.
Sure.
I mean, he was out of the 5th anyway. And that was sort of my point. If there was going to be a time to where the umpire may just say, you know what, you're gone. Now he would throw Quatraro out too. You're down 4 runs in the 5th inning. Lopez is still on the mound, okay? We've seen Quatraro raise the white flag last week against the Red Sox. All right? When he left, was it Angel Zerpa in the game?
Yeah.
Just left him in the game. We've seen him wave the white flag before of, well, we got to figure out how to get through this game, and, that's, we had our plan or whatever. So he's already done that before. 1 week later, if you get tossed and Brady Singer gets tossed, then so be it.
Yeah.
But Bobby Witt's an MVP candidate, and you won't convince me that it's unbelievable coincidence that in the 5th inning, up 6-2 with Bobby Witt up there, 2 out, nobody on, and the first pitch hits him, if his shoulder / tricep doesn't get in the way, it hits him in the head. It's still rising. When has Lopez done that? When did he do that in the game? That's too damn coincidental.
Sure.
And the Royals laid down and had the Minnesota Twins just tuck them in so they can go quietly into that dark night, call it a game, and get ready for the next day. Singer would have earned a lot back from me, in my mind, in the 5th inning from what he gave away in the 2nd. At least he's got his teammates back.
Big game Brady, it's small game Singer, because he does not show up in big games.
Let's talk about that on the other side of the break. I know you got some stuff that you want to get into. I got some stuff I want to talk about as well. So we'll do that on the other side of the break. We'll hear from the Chiefs coming up at 11 o'clock. Matt Nagy and players. Adam Teicher will be our guest at 1 o'clock. But we'll talk with Les Normans from Royals Baseball in the noon hour as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Tex says, when you were saying that he pitched well except for a certain inning, it gave me an immediate flashback to Luke Hochevar. I think Brady has been better than Hochevar overall in his career, but I can remember that Luke would have those innings where he just imploded. Tex says it better happen in the next 2 games. We're talking about maybe a Minnesota Twin wearing one.
Sure.
Tex says, seriously, last night's game infuriated me. We are currently Minnesota's female dog.
Bleep.
913-912-4810. 913-912-4810. Tex says he followed that up with a great day at the plate, 0 for 4. Renfroe, I mean.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
going back into a slump. I mean, he helped carry the I don't want to say carry the offense, but he
was
was
good
a
for a month and a
integral
half.
part for a month
Yeah.
and a half, and now he's going back into a This is the Hunter Renfroe experience.
Yeah.
This is what you're witnessing right now. A guy who can be a game changer offensively to an extent, can elongate your offense,
Yeah.
a good number 5 hitter, or he could be a guy who is a complete non-factor and a negative because defensively, I will say he's made a couple nice plays in right field outside of obviously the throw. I was actually impressed over the past couple of weeks of some of the plays he made in right that I was shocked that he made. Maybe someone else makes it look a little smoother, but he was making some plays out there. But this is the Renfroe experience where he's not hitting. He's not bringing much to the table.
Yeah. 913-912-4810 is the text line. If the Royals are in a 5-game series, who's starting game 3?
Waka with Singer out of the bullpen.
Okay.
I talked to Max Reaper about this yesterday because he was pretty in on Singer, and I even said the same thing. I said, I think Singer sometimes gets a bad rap. I think a lot of people still view him as the Singer of the past couple years, right? But Singer's had a wonderful year. I feel like sometimes you got to give credit where credit's due. Even if it doesn't look great, he's finding ways to get it done. And of course I say that, and I'm a man who always says negative reinforcement works. I give him positive reinforcement, and what happens? He gets shelled. I do think the 3-game series, though, I brought up Waka as the third starter, Singer out of the bullpen, because I think a 2-pitch mix can play a little better out of the bullpen. Maybe that 91, 92 is 93, 94, 94, 95. In a couple innings, I think Singer could play up way more so than Waka. That's the way I land on that.
Yep.
Especially if you need bullpen help, by the way.
Yes. What we've seen from Singer, and why it's Waka going in the 3rd game over Brady Singer and Brady Singer out of the bullpen if you need to have that. There are a couple of ways to look at this. Games in which he's pitched against teams above 500, below 500. But I also want to look at what he's done as of late. So if we look at the overall season, Brady Singer, against teams that are below 500, he started 12 games. He's got a 2.05 ERA and a .95 WHIP, averaging roughly 6 1/3 innings pitched.
So he's in the Cy Young
Yeah, absolutely.
voting with that.
Dominant. Above 500, he's pitched, oddly enough, 12 games. He's got a 4.87 ERA, so a difference of 2.82. Almost 3 runs of earned run average between the teams that are sub 500 and above 500. So a 4.87 ERA and a 1.56 WHIP. Wow. Averaging roughly 5 innings. So 4 fewer outs per outing in the teams that are above 500. But there was something that was sticking out to me in that the first part of the year, he was so good. No matter who he was going up against, he was so good. And so what I wanted to look at was what has he done since March and April? Or really April, May. Because
Yeah,
March there was
April,
one.
May.
So April, May.
He had 1 start in March.
Yeah. So April and May. He's made 13 starts in that time. As close as you can get to 50-50 with 13. 7 games against teams above 500, 6 games against teams below 500. So pretty easy apples and oranges. And this is where it's become so stark in the contrast of the good teams and the bad teams. Over the course of the season, we talked about a difference of 2.8 earned run average. Against teams that are sub 500, In his 6 games that he has started, he's got a 1.34 ERA, a .89 WHIP, and averaging 6 2/3 innings pitched. Pitching into the 7th inning, damn near handing the ball to the bullpen that only needs 6 outs when he's playing some bad teams. Since May, teams above 500 in those 7 starts, he has a 6.95 ERA, a 1.8 WHIP, averaging 4 2/3 innings pitched.
Jordan Lyles.
Yeah. It's 2 fewer innings, 6 2/3 to 4 2/3. And a difference of 5.61 in earned run average. That's since the first month and a half, he was good against everybody. Like, he was out there, it was like, wow, Brady Singer, this is...
Brewers didn't matter.
Didn't matter. Twins, first game of the season for Brady Singer against the Twins. Dominant. 7 innings, 10 Ks, no runs.
Yep.
He was dominant. And it wasn't then, well, that was the one good outing against good teams. No. He was good throughout April and then into May. And now, his last 7 starts against teams above 500, he's got a 7 ERA and almost a WHIP of 2. And he's barely getting into the 5th inning.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jason. In the playoffs, you play the bad teams, though, right?
Yes.
So he'll be good, correct? So
That's
that makes
That's
sense.
right. No, you're right. You are right about that. I mean, that is something that at least we do have to take into account, is that playoffs are typically teams that are below 500. And that's where, to me, the decision becomes pretty easy as to who I'm going with, whether that be Brady Singer or Michael Wacha. Now, Michael Wacha has not been an ace against teams that are above 500.
I was trying to look up where's Michael Wacha in regards to.
Well, his splits overall in the season are pretty good. In that, pretty good meaning there's not a gap between the two. It's like less than a run of ERA between the good and the bad, the above 500 and below 500. But since he came off the IL, he's made 9 starts since coming off the IL. 5 against teams above 500, 4 against teams below 500. Against teams below 500, he's got a 1.8 ERA and a 1.08 WHIP, averaging 6 1/3. The 5 games against teams above 500, he's got a 3.2 ERA.
Yeah.
And a 1.2 WHIP, averaging 5 2/3. It's only a difference of 1 out. It's only a difference of 1 out, 5 and 2, or 2 outs, I guess. 5 2/3 and 6 1/3. That's the difference between the good teams and the bad teams. Now it's 1.4 in terms, or 1.6. No, it's 1.4. 1.4 earned run average difference between the good teams and the bad teams. But 3.2 ERA against teams that are above 500, that's since coming off the IL for Michael Wacha.
Oh, he's been great. I didn't realize how good he's been since his ERA ballooned to 5.5.
Yeah, he started off rough.
After in May 4th, and he gave up 7 runs. And since that start against the Rangers, I'm looking in earned runs, he has not given up more than 3 in a game, and he's only given up 3 in a game twice since that blow up against the Rangers. So just to put into perspective how good Michael Wacha has been since May 4th, he's been just damn consistent. I guess I didn't realize how impressive he had actually consistent he has been since May 4th, that game against the Rangers.
Yeah, and that's why when I look at it, like, okay, we've seen Singer be dominant at times, but I'm not on the side of having Brady Singer pitch third for this team. Like, I've seen that in that, if the Royals in the 3rd game of a playoff, who's going to the mound? Like, it's Michael Wacha.
Yeah.
It's Reagan's Lugo Wacha. And we've talked the last 2 times out. And, I've fallen into this trap too. The last 2 times out that we've talked about a big series. Last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday against the Red Sox. We said what? Man, you got Singer, Lugo, Reagans. Your 3 best pitchers. And then, because it's only a 5-game week against the Twins on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're going to have Singer, Lugo, Reagans, your 3 best pitchers. This is a big 6 games against the Red Sox and the Twins. And they are 1-3 in those games. 2 of those losses are Singer on the mound, in which he has not pitched well. So, looking forward, it's boy, this is a big series, and you've got Lugo, Reagans, and Waka on the mound. That's the way to approach it. And hopefully, the start for Brady Singer lines up more with bad teams the rest of the way and fewer of the good teams, and make sure you get the Wakas, the Lugos, the Reagans against the better teams. You can't really, design it that way, but hopefully it falls in that direction, because right now he's just not a guy that you can put on the mound in a big game.
Sure. And I don't think the offense is completely void of criticism, especially in this one against Minnesota. Pablo Lopez has had the Royals' numbers in his career, right? But he went into this game with a 4.67 ERA. He's been pretty darn bad. Not been great for fantasy baseball. Pablo Lopez, thank you. But the Royals didn't do much. I mean, they ended up scoring 3 runs total, 2 earned against him. Again, how much of that was all of a sudden you give up 6 in the second and you're just sitting there going, all right, it's over. You almost throw the towel in. But the offense, I don't think, deserves to go unnoticed over what they did in this one either.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We will hear from the Chiefs coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. 913-912-4810. Tex says, clearly good team scouted Singer during the first couple of games against him and then made adjustments. With only 2 pitches, Singer has not adjusted back. Tech says, can you not set up future schedule by pitcher? Seems possible. You could with days off and things like that, but if you get into, 11 games, 11 days, then you can't do anything at that point.
Sure.
It's pretty much set, so you wouldn't be able to skip it around. But you can skip some days off to make sure that those other guys pitch more, but it's difficult for this team because they're trying to limit the innings of a Lugo and a Reagans because they're already past their career highs in innings pitched in a year.
Sure.
And so now skipping starts for somebody else on a day off and moving everybody up an extra day probably gets you an extra start or so, which sounds good in theory, trying to make the playoffs. But if they only worked around the margins at trade deadline to get marginally better and not necessarily go for it this year, then do you want them putting Seth Lugo's 2025 season at risk to, quote-unquote, go for it this year to make the postseason and to have them go out there and pitch 7 innings and now, a day off, move everybody up a day, skip a Singer starter or Lorenzen, and have Lugo go out there again? Same thing with Lucas Urseg. Like, I would have liked to see him keep Urseg in for 2 innings on Friday.
Yeah.
Bring him back out there. But I don't want Urseg pitching 2 innings every other night.
Sure.
Because the reason you traded for him is because you've got long-term control.
I'm more or less team go for it because you never know what's going to happen next year. I think people fall so much into the camp of, oh yeah, well the window's open so long.
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
Yeah.
Just ask the Bengals, the Bills, what they've won. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, you always think your window is open longer than it really is. I'm not saying the Royals' window isn't going to be open, but injuries happen.
Yeah.
You think the Braves thought that both Strider and Acuna were going to get injured this year? No, but it's baseball. Things happen. You go for it.
No, they knew that building my team in fantasy baseball, that this year with all of my keepers and Spencer Strider being the guy leading my team, very, 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 very cheap, that this was the year for him to go down.
Is this
along with
a
Mookie Betts
collusion?
And Yuri Perez, etc., essentially costing me a championship. Thanks a lot, Atlanta. Jerks. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We'll head up to Chiefs training camp here in just a little bit. We're going to hear from Matt Nagy, Jalen Watson, and Kingsley Suamataia, who performed well in the 6 snaps that he had.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw.
I'm ready to say it. 6 snaps, all pro. Ready to say it.
Would you say after the 6 snaps, is he closer to like a 4-time All-Pro player or a Hall of Famer? Like where would you lean at this point for Kingsley Suamataia after the 6 snaps of preseason? Which is closer?
Trent Williams, I think.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Since we all liked him in the draft process, it's Trent Williams. If we didn't like him, then it doesn't mean anything.
Cam Irving, if not.
Yeah, no, I
think his floor is Laramie Tunsil, though, right? That's the floor.
Yeah.
Orlando Pace floor.
Pace, I think he's somewhere between Ogden and Pace.
Yeah. Things go wrong, of course.
Yeah. I mean, if things go wrong, maybe he only goes to 8. Maybe he's only an 8-time All-Pro. But if he just lives up to what general expectations would be, I see a gold jacket in his future.
Yeah, second-round left tackles, just like we always say.
Probably 3 rings for him.
Only 3 rings?
3 rings for him. Well, that gives Mahomes 6.
Only 6?
I'll settle out of court right now for 6 Super Bowls for Patrick Mahomes.
You know what?
You greedy punk.
Honestly, we could do a conversation. We're not going to do it probably, but at least today, I wouldn't.
Oh, that's absurd.
6 more, sure.
Oh, that's absurd.
So you're telling me Mahomes only gets 3 more?
I would settle right now for 3 more in Mahomes' career.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
You're really spoiled over the last 5 years.
I know, baby.
It's difficult to do.
I'm a gambler. I'm really not much of a gambler.
Well,
but
you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Know when to walk away.
But I ain't bluffing with
and know when to
7-2 off suit.
Are you hitting on a 20 here? What are we doing?
You know what? I like to live dangerously.
You think you're going to get that ace
Like
sitting on
the
20?
Family Guy when they take Peter to play blackjack.
Two kings. Split them.
Yeah, there you go.
What are you splitting kings when you got 20? Let's roll, baby. I'm trying to win double.
I'm just well, you've seen me play blackjack at Tahoe. That was not a great performance by me. Although in fairness, I got dealt a lot of 12s, a lot of 2s.
You did. I mean,
I don't. How are there that many 2s in the decks?
Your 12 to 15 cards. It was unreal.
It was electric, man.
I don't think I've ever seen that many hands end up between 12 and 15. Like it was just every time. 7, 5. Face card, 4.
They knew how much money was rolling around that casino that night. Those cards
not from this guy.
Well, you just were caught in the fray, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I feel like
The problem is he was sitting at the table by himself. So
Yeah.
there wasn't like another shooter to maybe mix it up.
To mix it, no. That was a very expensive.
and guess what? No
beer.
one wants to be the guy that sits down next. No one's gonna just unless they have no idea what
They
they're
had
doing.
a dude sat down, had no idea. He played like 2 hands and that was it.
But
And then-
hear me out though. I think the Chiefs 3 is about. I don't want to pull a Green Bay Packers and an Aaron Rodgers and
I feel
all.
like that's what you're doing.
But because they only won 1, right? I think when they won the first one, they just said, "Oh no, they're getting more than that." But
if you would have told them if they won the first one, it's like, okay, we'll give you 2 more and give you 3 total. Would you settle for that or risk it? Oh, I'm risking it. We got Aaron Rodgers. And now
I
you
get
got
that.
0.
And I used to say that, but
Uh-huh.
gosh, I'm really doing the Arrested Development thing where it doesn't work for them. It never works. But it might work for us. Because I'm like saying it doesn't work for anyone. But Mahomes is different. I don't think I'd settle out of court, take a drink, for only 3 more.
Oh, I absolutely would. Dylan?
Yeah, I would too. I think
love you. Only 3 more.
Sterling's making a mistake. I know he wants to catch Tom.
It's
at
catch
7.
Tom.
Right.
He's already a Hall of
But
Famer
you
at
only
this point.
need 3 more Super Bowls. You need 3 more and then 1 half capacity cardboard cutout at home Super Bowl
Dude,
where you're playing with Carl Cheffers as the ref.
See, here's the thing. And this is what's so great about me being steadfast in arguing against the absurdity of 6-4. We're 6-4. It's the only thing. Jordan got 6. Lawrence got 4. That's all that matters.
Well, Bill Russell's better than Jordan
yeah,
then, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. No. So the fact that I have been on the side of that's absurd, we should look at everything, including championships, certainly matter. The Chiefs fans that have been arguing 6-4, that's all that matters, are going to be in a tough spot if Mahomes ends up with if Mahomes ends up with 5 or 6 and not 7
Sure.
to argue Mahomes better than Brady. It'll be easy for me because I won't be caught in the hypocrisy of the two, because whether you like or don't like LeBron or you choose Jordan or whatever, I don't care with that argument. I cared at one point. I don't care anymore. People are like, Jordan over LeBron. Great. Kobe over LeBron. Great.
I'm
Good
a
for you.
Havlicek guy. I'm a
That's
John.
awesome.
I'm a
Hey,
John Havlicek man.
Fantastic, man. Roll with it, dude. Do what you do. But if Mahomes gets to 5, he's the GOAT. With the numbers he's put up, the way he's changed the game. I mean, you see how many different players and quarterbacks are coming along with 4 or 5 different angles to throw the football. Sidearm, 3/4, flipping it to the, like, he's doing things that's changing the way quarterbacks are playing the game, and he's doing it putting up crazy numbers and winning in the postseason and coming through in the clutch time and time and time and time again. Things that Tom Brady did, obviously. Like, Tom Brady did those things in his career and got to 7, but he was doing those things in his career, getting to 7 Super Bowls, by having some Super Bowls in which he threw for 150 yards and a touchdown, and they ended up winning that game. And Adam
Drew
Vinatieri
Brees finishes the AFC Championship for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, so we've seen that with Brady.
Drew Brees.
Yeah,
Bledsoe,
like,
excuse me.
Bledsoe. I knew what you meant.
Yeah, Brady's the GOAT. Mahomes is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen play the game.
Yeah.
Just as I've said about LeBron. LeBron's the best basketball player I've ever seen. I don't care if you want to argue LeBron, Jordan. It doesn't matter.
I think
don't
Kobe's
care.
the most talented.
No, LeBron's the most talented basketball.
No.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you.
Size. We're gonna argue.
No, I'm not going to argue. If you say Kobe, that's fine. I don't care. I'm done arguing that. It's,
Kyrie's more talented though.
what I've always wondered, though, is why doesn't anybody ever argue LeBron versus Jordan? That seems like it'd be a really good debate, but it just seems like it just gets flushed to the side. I don't understand.
Do you want to talk about Cowboys next and Dak Prescott? We could go full on.
It's actually Yankee
first,
season. so
Oh, yeah, that's right. Name the one team in baseball that lost by double digits to the White Sox this year.
that was awesome.
Yankees. The only team in baseball. They lost 12-2 to the
Oh,
White
dude,
Sox last
those
night.
fans are. I was joking.
You lose double digits to the White Sox, there's jumping off the ship.
Well, I mean, let's be real. Most of them aren't even from New York. One of my favorite things is Major League Baseball's now trying to promote Bobby Witt Jr. And it's awesome. They're like, hey, we have a great player on our hand. He's personable, outgoing, likable. Let's promote him. And so they put out a tweet of him hitting a home run and saying, looks like Bobby Witt Jr. is still keeping up or still trying to get closer in the MVP race. Mild, nothing crazy. And I wonder what the comments say. And it's just delusional Yankee fans. I mean, you would act like you just stole their child and you're like, you can't have him back. It's just the most ridiculous fan base in all of sports. So irrational, so small-minded. Yankees fans, I'm sorry that Bobby Witt Jr. is a very good player as well. No one took a shot at Aaron Judge. No one said a word about the guy. And yet you have to just interject yourself in there?
Yeah.
What's that tell me?
To the point of arguing Mahomes over Brady, if he three-peats, it's over. Because you can sit here and argue, because the Dolphins still pop champagne for the perfect season in 1972.
He would have 4 and a three-peat.
Because
and
who else has a three-peat?
He would have 4 out of 6.
Yeah.
4 Super Bowls, 6 years, and a three-peat.
Which Brady's never done that or three-peated, and no team in history's ever three-peated. So you could even argue that it's the best dynasty of all time.
If they win this year, it's the greatest
I
dynasty
agree.
in the NFL.
Absolutely.
It's the greatest dynasty of the Super Bowl era
Best
if they
team,
win
best
this year.
quarterback, best coach.
And I don't think it becomes a debate.
No.
At all. There's a debate right now.
Well,
if
you're
the Chiefs
debating
are the
with
best.
Boston people. And
Yeah, that's
it.
fine.
And they'll always debate
they,
us no
They
matter
can
what.
yell at a brick wall. I don't care.
Exactly.
There's a debate now versus other dynasties of what the Chiefs have done 3 and 5 years, and then going to 6 straight AFC Championship games and only losing in overtime. Like their postseason losses, Patrick Mahomes' postseason losses, only one of them happened in regulation.
Brady didn't make the playoffs after his first Super Bowl.
Right. One of them happened in regulation of all of his postseason losses.
The Super Bowl, yeah.
The Super Bowl. That's it. That's the one that happened in regulation. And even in that game, the other team was talking about his heroism in playing that game.
If I'm being honest, though, I really dislike the whole greatest of all time debate. That's why I never.
So do you think it's LeBron or Jordan?
I
Let's
never.
get to the bottom of this. Nobody argues.
I don't care. I don't
Okay.
even talk about it. 1A, 1B.
I think it's LeBron, then Wilt, then Jordan. What say you?
I said John Havlicek. You know,
Is it Tatum?
it might be Nick Van Axel. Big Nick Van Axel guy.
Okay. I would have gone Anthony Peeler,
be.
but whatever.
I'll go Anthony Peeler. He's number 2.
The GOAT?
But like I just think it's always a losing argument, and football is even harder because it's just it's 53 dudes on a team. Basketball's a little easier because you have 13 guys on a team, 12 guys typically, 10 guys play maybe in any given game, 5 starters. One guy can really make a difference. Baseball's even more difficult because not one guy can make that big of a difference unless you are a starting pitcher or you're Shohei Ohtani / Babe Ruth. And even then, Shohei with Mike Trout didn't make the playoffs, right? In NFL, I just think it's such a losing argument, especially trying to say who's the greatest of all time. Because Tom Brady's not the most talented of all time.
No,
I don't think that's even
Mahomes.
it's not even a debate. I'm sure I'd agree with that, but I just hate these. Why don't we just enjoy watching these guys play? Why does everything have to be, well, he has to be better than this guy or else I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get mad. Gronkowski versus Travis Kelce. Who was better? Well, Gronk had a great few years. Travis Kelce's still playing. Both are different style players. They're completely different styles. Why does one have to be better? Why can't we just sit back and enjoy greatness? I don't get why everything and I'm a intensely competitive person. Intensely in any given game, any given something, I love to compete. But when it comes to talking about who's the greatest of all time, it's like, well, it's kind of apples and oranges, even if it's the same position.
What are you talking about? No, it's LeBron and Jordan. It's apples and apples. They both play basketball
And play different positions. In
play
different eras.
and play differently. Yes,
Different styles, different eras.
I do love the as an aside while we wait for the Chiefs who are huddling right now. The old school the dream team would have beat these teams by 30. The dream team would have crushed these teams. Dream team would have beat Serbia by 35. Well, no, they wouldn't have because they're all in their 50s and 60s right now. So they would have got ran off the court because, they can't even, some of them can't even walk, let alone run. So that's first of all. But also, the game is so different.
It's changed.
It's just you're assuming that the dream team's game would evolve with what we're seeing now, which is an okay assumption because they're phenomenal basketball players. But people discount too much the skill of today's game.
The training too. I think the training has been a big difference.
The last 2 NBA drafts, the top pick has been from France, and this year the top 3 were overseas players.
Steph Curry, the skill of a Steph Curry is something we've never seen before as a shooter.
Yeah.
He's the greatest shooter we've ever seen. And I don't know, in 20 years, maybe we'll see somebody like Steph Curry, and there will be an argument of greatest shooter. Is it Steph or is it insert name here? But I don't know that I've seen a performance with what was on the line with a guy who traditionally in his career has been known as somebody who was not clutch. Fourth quarter of NBA Finals games, he did not hit a lot of shots.
Game 7, 2016.
He was not, Kevin Love.
Yeah.
But I think that was Game 7, 2015, right? When Kevin Love got switched on him and then they end up getting a
Are you talking about the one he
stop.
lost to LeBron?
Yeah.
That was
the one
16.
he lost,
15 they won because Love and Kyrie were hurt. But
that's
they
right,
still had to go. They still had
went
to
to-
fight off
yeah, it was-
Dellavedova and LeBron. That
That's
was
right.
What a
Dellavedova
wave
got
that was.
paid.
Hey, Australia, baby.
He got
Thank you,
paid.
LeBron.
He got paid. But what Steph did on Saturday was unbelievable. He's got the NBA Finals, but the gold medal, I think, changes a little bit of his reputation because a lot of his reputation was he wasn't coming through in the clutch. Of those NBA, Durant was doing it. Other people were. AI was MVP. Durant was MVP.
Andre Iguodala. Don't say AI. That's
Sorry.
Iverson. Come on now.
Sorry. All right, we're going to hear from Matt Nagy up at Chiefs training camp, and we'll hear from Jalen Watson, and we will hear from the King, Zli Suamataia. He's going to take his throne atop the All-Pro at left tackle this year. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That was decent.
Well, he's the king.
He's the prince.
Well, he's king, Slee. He's not the prince. He's not princely.
The Earl.
The Dukesley?
The Dukesley. Earlsley.
Suamataia. And you know what? There was one play where Josh Hines Allen did nothing against Kingsley.
Yeah, Dylan was actually talking about that. Yeah,
it was a regular pass rep, and Kingsley stuffed him.
Washed him down.
Absolutely. All right, here's Matt Nagy.
The change from he might be out for the potential preseason opener.
Yeah, nothing real different right now other than Jay Watt stepping in, which is Jay Watt has been so great. He's invaluable in the fact of just understanding every spot. So for him to kind of know this offense, where he's at, steps right on in. We changed the name of the personnel, per se, and the guys just keep rolling. But they're doing a good job, and I think it's one of those deals they just got to know. And it's next man up mentality, and we want Hollywood to get back as soon as he can, but we got to keep rolling, and we got the guys to do it.
Now where's Carson Steele stand right now?
Who's that?
Carson Steele?
Yeah. He's been progressively getting better and better by the day, and then you saw that with some of the runs he had. We're staying on top of these guys, making sure that they're good with the details, with footwork, understanding assignments, where they're at. But he's what I like about him is right now he's doing a lot of good things and being in the right spot at the right time, and you can trust him.
Are there specific areas where you feel like Xavier Worthy has made progress since you guys came up here?
Probably the biggest thing, Adam, is him understanding that everything's not going to be perfect, but how do you respond to, for example, today a couple missed connections between him and Pat, downfield throws that they didn't hit, but you put that on tape and now they can take that and talk through why it happened, and so he's been good with that. Didn't get a whole lot of reps in the first preseason game, but for him probably the biggest thing is like making sure that he understands that it's not going to be perfect, but we're trying to get to that point to where you guys really start clicking and understanding the whys behind maybe why you didn't get that throw or why there wasn't a catch. But he's had a phenomenal attitude.
What ways, like tangible ways, have you seen Isaiah develop his pass catching?
Well, he's always practicing, whether it's in special teams or post-practice. He's always working on his hands, and he's always had that. So I think, like, you look at the preseason game, we had that catch in the flat. He's able to he bobbled it, but he made the catch, and he was able to get vertical right away. So continue to just keep working on that, but he's been great with that.
How comfortable are you with the progress that Kingsley is making on the offensive line?
I like where he's at. It's going to be growth with him every day. Being able to get some pads, put the lights on, and let him get some reps like we had last week in the preseason game, it's only going to make him better. Reps are invaluable for him right now. Being able to understand the speed, and then more than anything on the offensive line, and sometimes this doesn't get talked about enough, is the communication process between those guys that go on from the center to the tackles, and then being able to execute.
You mentioned Pat working on the depth of the dropbacks. Just how have you seen the progress there as we've gone?
With his depth, he's been fine. The apex of understanding rushers, guys getting upfield. Again, even with a new guy like Kingsley coming in, understanding the speed off the edge and knowing that you have a friendly quarterback that's going to push up in the pocket and make plays when he needs to. But he's always staying aware of where he's at.
What do you need to step up with Hollywood out? How does
I think right now for where he's at, probably, Justin Watson coming in, knowing the role, but necessarily step up wise. I don't know if I would use that word more than anything. Just like it's different because there's different guys in for different series and different quarters. So if you have an opportunity, no matter who you are, where you're at, whatever role you're in, you're trying to make this team. For us, we understand that we have our the first and second group of guys that you guys have seen out there in different quarters. Whoever that is, go ahead and use the competition to make a play. So I think it could possibly be different every game. We'll wait and see.
Has Nico showed you the things you were looking for up here?
He's done well, and we talked about him being able to, when he gets in there, make plays. He had that catch, then the possible fumble that they called him on the knee down. But what I like about Nico, again, is being able to rebound and bounce back from a play that, I know he wants back.
Just anything you want to see emphasized more game 1 to game 2?
Probably more than anything, and it's very natural, is we had some mental errors from the group. You can't necessarily always see it in the newspaper with the stats. It's typical to have that. So let's reduce that. And you guys have heard me say we're looking for the guys that don't make the same mistake twice. So when you have a second game, you can evaluate that.
One, Alex Smith out here, just the conversation with him being out here. And then two, just two guys, Justin Ross, Darius, Tony, what you've seen.
So first of all, it's been phenomenal seeing Alex. I was able to see him at the Super Bowl. Such a, just a rare person of who he is, of just not the player we know him, but as a person as well and what he's been through. So it's always great to see him back out here. That's fun. And then those other guys, who were the two guys you said, Kadarius and who else? Justin Ross. Yeah, Justin's making plays. He's out there. He made a great catch there down the sideline. Again, just continuing to grow, not make the same mistake twice for Justin. I love his attitude. He's been very involved and really enjoying his process. And then Kadarius, again, same thing. It's just making sure he's just got to get healthy and get out there so that we can, see him and see the reps.
Matt, have you learned anything in this camp, just seeing Travis Kelce day to day, just how he's trying to, obviously grow within the offense and help everybody else?
He's still doing everything he's done with the routes. What I always like in the last 3 years now, me being back here, is just seeing his continual growth as a leader and a mentor and a conduit of us coaches to the young guys and the players. You get to this part of camp right now, it can be a little bit grueling. You can get a little bit of that I feel sorry for myself mode. He doesn't let that happen. And when you hear that come from a player like Kels, it impacts those young guys and they push through. So I think that his leadership's been great.
Matt, Patrick mentioned last week that he's a football historian. He's kind of a junkie in that research. How do you see that about him, especially maybe how does that manifest itself, whether it's just in the way he thinks or the things he sees or even some of the things that they come up in the laboratory?
Right. Well, I'd say his appreciation, number one, for people that have come before him is real. He doesn't miss much stuff, so whether it's the present or whether it was the past with the historian part, and then being able to use experiences and plays that maybe he's been a part of or has seen to use into his creativity to help us out as coaches. Hey, think about this, think about that. But it's just he loves that stuff. He's always about it, and not everybody's like that. But he has a rare trait to want to be like that.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, there's Matt Nagy. We'll hear from Kingsley Suamataia here very shortly. The Chiefs, what seems to be right now starting left tackle in pads today. They got a couple of guys back from injury yesterday that I know you guys were talking about, and Nick Bolton and Justin Reed back out there. Justin Reed participating in the pads today, which is awesome.
Almost seemed like Jaden Hicks broke it. He was like, he had the helmet on.
Yes, that's right. Here's Kingsley.
It's been great. Just memories. I remember when I first came in here, I was like, oh, dang, it's probably going to be long. But, I just woke up today. I was like, wow, I only have a few more days left of training camp. But it's one that I'll never forget. I'll never forget my first training camp. It was a great blessing to be here with all the guys and grinding it out here in St. Joe's. With beautiful weather like this, or if it's hot outside, 90 degrees. But it was a great experience.
From the offseason on, how have you maybe seen yourself get more comfortable in the role with the top team left tackle?
Just staying in the playbook, just day in and day out. Can never study too much. Just make it a habit of mine to, right before I go to bed, right as I wake up, just having that refresh in my mind so I can just go out there and play loose and free. So.
How has it been working with Andy Reid as your new coach here?
It's been great. He's there cheering up the defense, so cheering up the offense, going back and forth. But it's great having Coach Reid out here, just coaching me up and telling me what I need to do, just to be a better player. So.
How would you evaluate your first game?
It went good. Went against one of the best pass rushers in the league, Josh Allen. But he's a dog. I've watched him since I was in college and in high school. So, but it was a great experience. It's good to, it's funny. I went against this guy. It's like, okay, I belong here. I can play with these guys. But I can't just wait for Detroit now. So, just on to the next game now.
Anything you want to improve on, or anything you want to emphasize in the next
game? I only got to play a little bit, but for the first drive. But shoot, if I get more reps, you're just gonna see more of an animal. Just coming out there, flying around to the ball, be around the ball a lot, a ball hog. So just have fun out there at the end of the day, though.
How much do you like plays that ask you to be on the perimeter to show that athleticism? How much do you enjoy that aspect of it?
I love plays like that. I don't know. It's fun, you know. I didn't run out here for nothing, so I'm running out 20 yards, 30 yards, maybe even 50 sometimes. But when I run out there, I just know that's the play we're going to score on. So every time I got to be out there, I can show how fast I am. I'm strong. So and I'm out there, you know, running back right behind me or right beside me. So wherever he needs me to block in for him, then yeah, it's real fun though.
Kanae's going to be out there with Detroit. You know, you excited to see him and just how the conversation going on?
No, yeah, it's crazy. Now I'm gonna see him man to man on this side of the ball. So, like I said, he's been a great mentor as a cousin to me. But just being able to see him now in our jobs, professional wise, it's gonna be a great feeling to be out there with him. So, I'm excited.
It's like with your family background, how much firsthand experience had you had in like an NFL locker room, sidelines, those type of environments, and how much has maybe some of that experience that you picked up from family helped you in this experience so far?
It helped me a lot. Like I said, I have a lot of family members in the league that's been in the league or in the league now. So just having that mentor before I even got into the league really helped me a lot just to stay focused and focus on my job. And then at the end of the day, everything else will work out. So it's been great.
Do things feel like that they've matched up with your expectations? Do you find there's surprises, or just does it feel pretty comfortable?
It feels comfortable. I love being out here, grinding, again, with all my teammates, growing that bond, defensive side of the ball and with the offensive guys. So it's really great. It's a big family, so I love it.
Joe Tooney's out there. And just working with him, especially now that you did some one-on-ones with the pads with him, how has that worked out and just what have you learned from him?
Shoot, Joe's a big-time vet. He's, the vet of our O-line room, so it's just amazing having him right next to me. Helps me see things I don't see, and just pick up on little things that he sees as a player and these little tips that he gives me here and there while he's out there on the field. So it's great having him back, seeing him fly around and get after it. So,
Kingsley, what's it like going from watching Travis to now being a teammate, and what have you learned most about Travis since you joined the team?
Travis is a funny guy. He's one heck of a guy. It feels like an older brother kind of relationship that I have with him. He kind of took me under his wing when I first got here. He know a little bit of our culture, so it's real nice having him. But even his football IQ is outstanding. The way he sees the offense, the way he sees coverages and stuff is unbelievable. So just having that role model again, all these different guys across the board to help me out, just to be a better player for this team. So.
When you say he knows a little of your culture, what do you mean by that?
Like he understands the Polynesian culture. He understands where I'm from. He understands how how we love. We love hard, and that's how he plays and how he shows it out there on the field. So I definitely respect that about him.
All good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, there's Kingsley Suamataia, and one of the quotes there gets me excited about what he can be in the NFL. We'll certainly get into that. Jalen Watson's going to be up at the podium here very quickly. But him talking about going up against Josh Hines-Allen and his reaction and takeaway from just 6 snaps in the NFL, pumped for Kingsley. Here's Jalen Watson.
Easy a little bit late and now starting to get your feet under yourself.
Yeah, it's been a challenge, but, the coach is pushing me to, get my conditioning back, get my legs back. So it's been going good as of lately.
How much of a challenge was that last year playing through the shoulder injury?
It was tough. The worst parts were the practices because, I wasn't taking anything to, take the pain away, and it just kept popping out every day, but then popping back in. But it was a challenge, but it was all worth it.
What was it like during this offseason? Because it looked like during OTAs you were starting to get a little bit ahead, and then it looked like maybe they pulled you back a little bit. Was there a setback or anything? Or?
No, it wasn't a setback. It was just to be safe.
What are you trying to prove now that you are on the field, where you want to progress next in your career?
I mean, it's a new year. With LJ leaving, it's a spot open for everyone. So everyone has goals for themselves, and just try to make a name for yourself, let the world know who you are.
How has that competition been with Nazi when he is out there and Josh Williams? How are you guys all handling it, would you say?
It's been fun. I mean, everyone thinks this is something new. Yeah, you get a cornerback too, but we've been doing this for 3 years. It's always been healthy competition. We always, root for each other's success, and who's ever gonna take the spot is gonna be willing of it.
You know, you could have shut it down last year. Why did you decide to continue to play on?
I just love playing football. I mean, that's the goal. I felt like on game days, if I took a couple, I could play it. I could play through it. I just had to get through the practices. And the games, I really didn't feel it because, the adrenaline was going, and I made the best of the situation. And I just wanted to get another Super Bowl, and it happened, so it was all worth it.
Spags has talked about how he's been wanting, somebody to step up and kind of claim that number 2 spot. And, what was your kind of mindset with that? But since I'm sure you're rooting for your teammates, but at the same time, you're probably also sitting there just waiting for your chance. Has it been kind of like for you?
I mean, it's just your teammates and your coaches having trust in you, everyone doing their job. We have a 1 of 11 rule. If one out of every 11 players do their job, we'll be successful and there'll be a good down. And if not, we could live to fight another down. So just having the coaches trust in me, being able to do my job consistently each and every play.
With the injury, were there things you had to sort of adjust for and account for from a technique standpoint? And are there things you can do now to sort of show more growth because you are healthy?
Yeah, I think it's all just with confidence and trusting myself. If I see something, believe it. A lot of times, as DBs, it's about trusting your eyes and making plays on the ball, and I think that's what I'm best at doing, so just trying to showcase that.
Do you think Mayor's push you on this year?
Yeah, he's definitely pushing all of us a lot more than it have been in the past, but that's what we need, and to be great, that's what it's going to take.
When you say he's pushing you more than, say, last year, what's an example?
Just in meeting rooms, corrections. He's always been pushing us, but it's just a different intensity level this year because someone has to step up and fill a big role.
Good. Thanks, Joe.
All right, there's Jalen Watson, one of the guys that needs to step up, as he talked about, to fill a big role like L'Jarius Sneed. So we heard from Kingsley, we heard from Matt Nagy, hearing from Jalen Watson. And then is there somebody else coming to the podium, you think, Dylan? Oh, what's the question? Let's hear it.
So just try to show who I am a little bit.
Any gratefulness you have of seeing what Conti's had to go through over the last year? And obviously, there's a competition, but just because you guys did come through the league together, what's it been like to watch him sort of battle back to maybe being a contributor?
I mean, it's great watching him and BC come back. They were both injured, and us 5, we're really close. So it just hits different, like watching all 5 of us have so much success, and B Cook's having his child come in this week, and it's just great watching Trent get his All-Pro, NJ coming back, flourishing. It's just. We're all so happy for each other, and there's never any ill will about any competition.
All right. Good. Thanks, Jalen.
Appreciate you.
All right, there's Jalen Watson. Kingsley
one more.
And Matt Nagy. We will take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, talk about the things that we heard from the Chiefs there in St. Joe. Coming up at noon, we'll talk with Les Norman. And at 1 o'clock, Adam Teicher, get his thoughts on the game from Saturday and these couple of days of practice. We'll take a timeout, and we'll come back. More Zone next.
Visit Hollywood Casino at...
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. Kingsley Suamataia, the Chiefs' second-round draft pick number 63, talking today with the media after playing 6 reps as the starter. I bring that up because, one of the questions that we had during draft time, the different positions the Chiefs would attack. Wide receiver, offensive line. We know, obviously, they went wide receiver and offensive line in the first 2 picks, traded up to get Xavier Worthy, then traded up to get Kingsley Suamataia. I don't know what they would have done if Xavier Worthy was not available. Would they have taken Kingsley at pick number 32? And then what would they have done in the second round? Wide receiver, another place. Part of the needs for the Chiefs was the defensive line. Defensive tackle specifically, with Chris Jones getting older, Derek Nottie being signed, Turk Wharton, Neil Farrell, Matt Dickerson, Mike Pennell. Those are the defensive tackles. There was a guy in the second round out of Ohio State who was an undersized defensive tackle, but one of the better defensive tackle pass rushers in the draft, in Mike Hall Jr., who went to the Cleveland Browns with pick number 54. There are some very, very awful allegations against Mike Hall Jr. that just came out about an incident that was reported yesterday with police in a domestic incident, that if any of the allegations are true in the police report, his career would probably be over. That's a guy who the Browns took in the second round, pick number 54. Those are things to where you can do your research, right? You can do all of these different things, and you never know what mistake and who that person sort of is deep down. But the allegations are pretty rough with his significant other and the mother of his child, while her mother was there, while the child was in the rooms, house, etc., including broken doors, dragging her, putting a gun to her head. These are all the allegations that were made. Obviously, there will be an investigation and everything, but it's a guy who was just drafted in the second round and a guy who was one of the best defensive tackle pass rushers in the draft, that when we were talking about defensive tackles, he is not the typical size for the Chiefs. He's undersized, so it didn't look like it would have been a fit for the Chiefs. But if they couldn't get something done with Chris Jones and there was more of a need for a 3-technique defensive tackle, that you needed somebody to rush the passer, he might have been somebody on their list that they would have been looking at. But just an awful story if even a tenth of the allegations are true against him. Kingsley Suamataia has been awesome so far with the Chiefs. The videos that have come out about draft day, the fact that the lays that they made were red and gold, obviously for different reasons in family and culture, but the fact that they happen to be red and gold are just amazing. I think it was his uncle that was wearing a red shirt, that day, not for any specific reason, but just all of these things sort of lining up. And the Chiefs wanting Kingsley pretty bad, and Brett Veach telling Kingsley that most of the second round, Andy Reid was sweating about wanting Kingsley Suamataia. If he plays like the Chiefs hope he can play, and in 6 reps only on Saturday, he looked pretty good. But the fact that he said, Sterling, that I went up against Josh Hines-Allen and a great rusher, that I went up against these guys and I know I can play here. That's his takeaway. I can play here. Yeah. And the more reps you see, the more of an animal you'll see with Kingsley Suamataia. And only say, I do wonder what that does for a rookie who's trying to figure things out. He's going up against his own team, his own teammates through practice, through padded practice. It's not fully live. You miss a block, they can't touch the quarterback.
Sure.
Now it's fully live. And you're going up against a guy who's essentially an NBA max contract guy in the NFL at defensive end, and also Travon Walker, a 1-1 pick in the draft. And I didn't see an issue at all in those 6 reps with Kingsley. And the fact that he comes away with that, Sterling, saying, it went well for me because I know that, my takeaway is I can play here.
A dude who had 17 and a half sacks last year.
A sack per game.
Sack per game. And Kingsley Suamataia says, I know I can play here.
Yeah, I went up against that guy. It may have only been 6 reps.
Sure.
But I didn't just get beat time and time again. Like, unfortunately, Hunter Norzad had his first 2 reps in the NFL were very forgettable. He got pushed around like a rag doll in the first 2 reps of his NFL career.
Well, not forgettable for the quarterback. That quarterback is not going to forget that.
Yes. Well, the first one was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Because he got tossed to the side, and then that defensive tackle just swallows up Edwards-Helaire. And then the very next play, right, he just gets pushed straight backwards and falls, and then it was that was rough for Hunter Norzad. Kingsley didn't experience that welcome to the NFL moment, rookie, like Norzad did.
And I'm sure he will at some point. Every rookie will have some situation. This does not mean that, okay, strap up, strap in. He's going to be a all-pro as a rookie. Yeah. But again, it's nice when you have that confidence, and Xavier Worthy talked about it. Jaden Hicks talked about it. Just you want to that first snap. There's going to be that the nerves. And now again, this is obviously a preseason game, so I'm sure it busts back out come regular season. It's going to always get amped up. But Xavier said the same thing, where first snap, a little nervous. You're like, can I play here? Am I good enough? And then of course, as it settles in, it's football. I was drafted first round for a reason. I was drafted by the Chiefs for a reason, wherever you were drafted. And you saw Jaden Hicks play great, right? You saw Xavier Worthy only play also 6 snaps. He talked about how that first play was supposed to be to him, and it got taken away. And Xavier even talking about more how I didn't really want to go out. I wanted to at least get 1 punt return. Again, just trying to get the firsts out of the way, if you will.
Right, absolutely.
And I think that's great, though, for Kingsley. Just to even acknowledge and say that. The confidence right there, that's a big thing. I don't think people realize the mental side of football, how big it is. I know Grunny talks about it all the time, and especially for offensive linemen. The second offensive linemen start thinking, you're behind. The second you have any sort of doubt creep into your mind, you're done, right? Kingsley doesn't sound like he has that.
The news in the NFL, we'll take a timeout, but news in the NFL out of Minnesota as well, in that J.J. McCarthy has a torn meniscus that he suffered in the game. He played through it because he didn't think it was that bad. It got a little bit more painful, went to the trainers. They have found out that the meniscus is torn. He's going to have surgery. They don't know the timeline until they get in there to see the extent of the tear. It could be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, but Aaron Borgman on Twitter, rehab all-star, that worked with the Chiefs and a lot of, in his career doing this. And he said, totally dependent on size, type, and location, have had athletes return in 12 days and some return in 8 weeks. So when they get it, and that's why, you're seeing the Vikings saying, we're not going to give you a timeline because he's having surgery. We don't know the timeline. Maybe they have an idea, but they won't know the true extent. And the fact that J.J. McCarthy played through it, did it make it worse? Or is that a sign that it isn't as bad because he didn't think it was that big of a deal and still played in the game after the injury happened?
Well, Carson Wentz played after a torn ACL and then came out, right? So I don't know if you can make that. It's always difficult.
I would say with it being a rookie and J.J. McCarthy and what you spent to get him, I would guess Sam Darnold probably gets some early reps in the season as the start of the first couple of weeks.
This actually gives you an excuse to do the Mahomes thing.
Yeah.
Like a legitimate excuse. And
we're going
Sam
with
Darnold
Darnold.
can be as bad as possible. And, hey, we're not putting him out there.
We're going with Darnold for to start the season.
Boom.
And JJ had a setback with the knee, having surgery, which put him behind in reps, meaning that he couldn't be out there taking the reps, going through preseason. And so we're going to bring him along a little bit slower than what the original plan may have been. And then if he is ready halfway through the year, then you make that change. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More Zone next. News in the Olympics. Did you guys see this about the new sports versus sports that are going away in the Olympics? Have you guys already talked about this? Did you do this in Learn Funniest Fest?
Ray gun, yeah.
Ray gun killing it?
Literally.
Yes.
If you were wondering what I was laughing at earlier when you were mentioning Cole Reagans, every time I hear Ray gun or Reagans, the fish flop dance is what happens. In my head,
I'm a big fan of like the little kangaroo or the.
Oh, that was like the thriller.
Yeah,
the little thriller attempt. But yeah.
A doctor in cultural studies, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had
cultural movement.
Yeah.
Cultural movement.
But
I didn't know they had that.
We'll talk with Les Norman because new sports in the Olympics in LA in 2028, bringing back baseball. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, and Biesterveld and Crook, victim of a wrongful personal injury seeking compensation. Then call Biesterfeld and Crook at 913-LAW-5050. That's 913-LAW-5050. Les, what's up, man? How are
you doing, fellas? What's going on, man?
We are doing just fine, man. Doing just fine. Good to see your face.
Back
Good to
at
have
ya.
you in here in studio today.
I'd rather be in the studio than where Dylan's sitting.
Is it cold back there?
It has nothing to do with Dylan, but look.
You can hang meat back there.
I
man.
have
It's gotta be
what they
cold.
say is not a small nose, and there might have been several icicles dripping
Okay,
off of
let's
it
see.
in my 5-minute weighing station before I came in here. Poor Dylan back there in shorts.
He has the ability to turn it up.
Yeah, but you can't. No, I mean, you got all that equipment back there. It's got to stay.
Yeah,
cool.
you can't.
Yeah, You actually, Sterling.
Stuff can't get overheated
You just
there.
have to turn it off, and about 30 minutes, it'll become 80 degrees in here with all this stuff.
Yeah.
So-
I do it in here too. I just turn it off.
But
There's a little bit different size of the room.
But
it would be
also
quicker to turn that off in there.
But
like,
Sterling, the equipment keeping the station on the air in there can't get overheated.
it could be 75 in there instead
No.
of 62.
No, it can't. You want to go talk to Drake to see
Yes,
about
I
the-
will go talk to
let's,
Drake.
Let's risk it to have this equipment get overheated because
Oh,
Dylan and
man.
Jake and Adam don't want to put on a jacket.
Yeah,
I'd rather stir the pot than be boiling in it.
Sorry, I think about them. Okay, Jason. Maybe
And
you
I-
don't care about the
I think
producers,
about
but I
layering up.
care about them.
I think about layering up. You got to layer.
Right.
Sometimes you got to wear
You
some
can always
layers.
layer up.
I like the
gotta
least
stop layering down at some
amount of
point.
clothes possible.
I know you can't go tarps off in there. That's why you're mad.
Right.
So
I could go.
Okay. No, you'd be mad about it.
It'd
You'd
be
complain
the
about
ice
it.
bucket challenge
You'd
in there,
complain about
basically.
it. You'd
Oh,
complain.
100% I complain about it.
Les Norman, our guest here.
It's great in here, though.
You know, yeah, it's nice. The last two times we've talked, Les, unfortunately, it's come off a Game 1 loss for the Royals.
Yeah, I need to
in,
maybe skip next week, I
in
guess.
big series against Minnesota and the Boston Red Sox last week, and Brady Singer there on the mound. Is there anything to sort of take away? Look, they won Game 3 last week against the Red Sox. They salvaged that, found a way to win. They were playing some sloppy baseball on Monday and Tuesday, and then they won on Wednesday. It wasn't necessarily sloppy baseball last night. It was the inability to get out of an inning and to locate your pitches after an unfortunate misstep in right field that, I don't know, is that more bad luck? Is that, sloppy play? Like I think of sloppy play as the overthrowing of second base, as the booting of an easy ground ball to second, what they're thinking to try to turn to. I know Bobby had that with Royce Lewis's hit, but at that point it was, I think 6-3 at that point, maybe still 6-2 in that particular play, trying to turn too quickly. But Renfroe in right field, is that more unfortunate, misstep? How do you characterize that if we looked at last week as sort of some sloppy play against Boston? Either way, it's a loss to the Twins in Game 1.
Yeah, I don't think that was sloppy play. I think it was an unfortunate misstep because sometimes you go to stadiums and turf gets loose in certain areas. Playing in Oakland years ago, Ricky Henderson hit a sinking line drive over first base to me in right field, but I had him shaded that way. We give him right center, and he's dead pull, and usually doesn't hit to the right center field gap, but he would flare because he's so strong. He could fist a ball right over the top.
Right.
And so I got to it clear, and he had the look in his eyes like I knew he was going second the whole way, and I had him. I mean, I had a strong arm, and I had him easy. It was an easy throw because I wasn't that far into the outfield. Just turn to my left, whip your head around, and just make an easy throw, and you're going to get him out. Well, the turf, like a foot-long turf gave as I planted and completely flipped and looked like an idiot. And it was just I did everything mechanically proper, like I was taught, like I'd worked. Just the turf gave out. And it looked like one of the two, either the turf had given out or as he planted, his leg might have locked or something. I got to go back and look at it. But you can see as the throw goes down into the ground, it was still on line. So his arm was in the right spot, and it wasn't his arm strength. It's like as he planted, he rotated early, but it was as if the turf had given or his leg locked out or something like that, which blows the whole inning open. Now you got nobody on, 2 outs, and they score 6 runs. So, yeah, that was the beginning of it, but it snowballs when you're throwing hanging sliders over the middle of the plate. I mean, let's call that what it is.
It's the second time in one of these big games where there's been a 3-run shot after a play that you thought could have been the third out in the inning.
Right.
The Michael Massey error, and then there ended up being a 3-run home run in that inning. This one, he still would have had to make the throw, salvy, catch the ball, make the tag.
We all know he would. All those would have happened.
It's Santana.
Every single part.
I mean, hearing the inflection of the voice of Lefevre being as surprised as he was that they were sending Carlos Santana there, it was like, okay, cool, we're out of this inning. Just make an easy throw.
Yes,
and
please.
you got this. And maybe that was in Renfro's mind of, okay, I got this, make an easy throw, and his back foot slips. I have no idea. It's unfortunate is what it is. In a big game, we've seen 3 of the now 4 games they've played where there's been a play like this in a big game that's cost them runs.
Yeah.
That whether it came back to haunt them or not, those are runs that are scored that wouldn't necessarily be on the board in other situations.
I just want to know if there's video of you taking the foot-long chunk out of Oakland and seeing the Looney Tunes style fall.
Yeah, I was bitter. Because I wanted to throw out Ricky Henderson.
Yeah.
I mean, I had him
keep that ball.
Yeah. I would have had him by a mile, and I know I would have been accurate because, again, I did everything right, but my foot just gave out. There was another play. I think I'd mentioned this before too, but earlier that year, Gubas is on the mound. He's throwing a gem in Texas, and I'm playing center field. And if I'm playing in the outfield, it was later in the game as a defensive replacement. So there's a guy on first, and Tettleton's up, and Mickey Tettleton hits a sinking liner for a base hit into left center, and again. He's powerful, and he hit the ball backspin. So I take a deeper angle because the guy's going to get to third because of how far I had to run. And so I'm just going to hurry up and get it and throw it hard to the cutoff man, not behind the runner and just all the way to second, because if they just go ahead and send him a la Lorenzo Cain, Eric Hosmer against the Toronto Blue Jays, right? So I'm aware in advance that could happen. And so in Texas, it gets so muggy, even at night in the summer. And so I went, and the ball hits, and it checks up. Instead of skipping, as it should, because I saw the backspin on the ball. I saw how hard he hit it. It was the only hard-hit ball. So it ends up checking up, and so then I plant again, and the turf gives out from behind me. Now you're going to think, oh, that's a common theme. I didn't run in my heels. I ran in the balls on my feet. And so I understand how to play the game. But the ball ends up going behind me, so Tettleton gets a double. The run scores. And that was the second run, and we only scored 1 run. And so we lost 2-1, and the headline, Mr. Dick Cagle, thanks, buddy. The headline of the sports page is me looking behind me, and the title was, Royals Rookie Costs Royals Game. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And I went and said, well, what's wrong with that? Like, you're an idiot. That's what's wrong with that. I mean, you saw the play. I mean, the ball checked up. I did everything right. But turf will happen. And if you look back at the video, it didn't look like Hunter Renfroe hesitated. Like he was surprised. Oh, wait a minute. There's no way I thought Santana would be going. And so he came up throwing. Yeah. It's just there's something weird with the foot of the leg.
It doesn't mean then that 5 more runs have to score.
It doesn't mean anything. It's not that it's so easy to look behind you and think, well, that just happened and that just happened and that just happened. You got to look. Sometimes it's a hitter does a really good thing. Hits a pitcher's pitch and just does a good job hitting. And then other times you hang one over the middle of the plate. And so you got to go back and look at those things. The hard part is to not compound those things. And sometimes that is hard to do because so much gets caught up in, oh, this is the Twins. They're the division. They're in front of us. It would be great to win. So you tend to put extra pressure on yourself. I mean, the Royals have done a great job late in games this year, right? And we've all seen it in late innings.
33 comeback wins. They lead the major leagues.
They've done fantastic. How many of those games were against the division? How many of those games were against? It's something we need to look up. But how many of those games?
White Sox.
They do have a number of them against the White Sox.
Right.
The 8th inning worked out well against the White Sox in the most recent series. But
absolutely.
Against the Guardians and the Twins, I don't know.
Right. And again, we'd have to look it up. But sometimes you can play a little bit tight.
Yeah.
And playing tight, the difference is to anything that you love to do, if you do it to be successful, if you do it with passion and just get after it and the bad mental doesn't come in, you're probably going to have more success than failure. But if you're trying to do something and be successful not to fail, you're increasing your chances of failing, and that's where the stuff blows up.
individually, we know there are players on this team that have pitched in postseasons before. Michael Wacha's done that. Seth Lugo's done that. Will Smith has been a closer for a World Series team 3 years in a row. So we've seen some guys that have played in the postseason. Stratton was also part of that Rangers team.
Maybe Schreiber, too, with the Boston at one point. I don't know for sure. But.
So we've seen guys in the postseason that have been on winning teams. But as they talk about, like, every team is different, the makeup of every team is different. This is and obviously Salvi's on this team that was a World Series MVP. This is a team that is made up of a lot of guys that are younger in baseball. Cole Reagans, Brady Singer, whether it be Alec Marsh, I know Michael Lorenzen now, but Alec Marsh, and then a lot of guys, in the infield, the entire infield, center field, left field. Right field's older, but not much playoff experience. Given that there are certain guys on the team, does a team overall have to learn how to win? Even though there are guys that have played in postseasons, played in World Series, Will Smith knows what it's like, Michael Wacha, those guys know what it's like to pitch in the postseason, but a lot of these guys don't. Salvi clearly does. But as a team, do they have to overall come together and learn how to win some of these games rather than individually saying, no, I've been there, done that, here's what to expect, or here's how we go about our business, but everybody's built differently, and this team is not last year's Padres team, last year's Rangers team, last year's Royals team either.
Right. There's leadership like a Salvi is going to bring you along, like a Michael Wacha. Those guys are going to bring you along. They're going to tell you how to play the game, and that's great. The problem is that when the chips are down in important games, they can't play the game for you. I was listening as you guys were coming in. You were talking about Brady Singer and talking about, maybe he's the bullpen guy, eventually moving forward if they get into the playoffs, which I think is great. Great take that you guys had there. The issue is that there's one guy on this team that is playing above the marginal side of things that is actually really stepping up, and that's Vinny Pasquantino. Now you're thinking, well, wait a minute, what's Salvi doing? What's Bobby Witt Jr. doing? So in Bobby Witt Jr., you've got a superstar. Mm-hmm. In Salvi, you've got both a superstar, a leader, but then you also he's also the guy that even when he's struggling, he can do great things because he can step up in those tough games. Vinny doesn't have enough big league experience yet, but he still is managing himself well. He's just that type of personality that he's mature. He can play in those situations. He can come through in those situations. He is kind of that unflappable guy. After that, what position player fits that mold? Not one. Not a single one that I can see. I mean, Frazier's in the 190s. Yes, Isbell did go 3 for 4, and he's had some pretty good production in key moments, but he's still below 240. Garcia has been dropping down. You guys were talking about how Hunter Renfroe's the pendulum's swinging back the other way now. Mm-hmm. So hoping if they get to the playoffs, it swings back the other way into the good side for that timing. So that's the issue, that you can lead guys that haven't been in those playoff or important games. You just can't play for them. And if they get tight and play to not fail versus play to win and step up, it's going to be difficult.
I will also point out in 2014, it wasn't like there's a ton of playoff experience on that roster.
It's true.
Absolutely.
But they had all played. A lot of those guys had played together for a while, though.
Yes, they had played together for a long time, but outside
and that's where I do wonder, like, the learning to win.
Outside of Omar Infante, who would have made the playoffs with Detroit at one point, Raul Ibanez, who didn't really play, was more or less of a coach at that point. Those are pretty much the only two hitters who had any sort of playoff experience. Then pitching, James Shields would have had at least a little bit with the Rays. Jeremy Guthrie, not really. I don't think he really made the playoffs at all with Colorado and Baltimore beforehand, right? So you're really only looking at 2 guys, 3 guys maybe, that had any sort of playoff experience. So they played a little longer, yeah. But again, sometimes I think you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes that can be a good thing. I think you saw it with the Diamondbacks last year, where it's like, you're not supposed to go that far. You're supposed to step by step. The Royals didn't do it in 2014, so Diamondbacks didn't do it last year. I don't think you have to go that route.
This is, oftentimes when you get in these situations and you're, focusing on, every pitch, every at-bat, every inning of these big games, and that's what we're watching right now. That I don't want to get into the tendency of the early 2000s, let's blame Mike Sweeney for everything, because he's the good player and he needs to come through every time. But there was a moment in the game in the 7th inning. The Royals were down at that point. It was still 6-3. They had scored on Adam Frazier's single the inning before with 2 outs to make it 6-3. They got Carlos Hernandez to come in there, go 3 up, 3 down. And then the Royals get, a leadoff single from Kyle Isbell. And you got 1-2-3. Massey flies out. Bobby Witt hits into the fielder's choice to shortstop, but, fast enough to not hit into the double play. And so now you've got 2 outs, 1 on, down by 3 in the 7th inning, and a reliever in there. And Vinny Pasquantino had one of the worst at-bats he's had all year.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's one at-bat. I mean, and that's where I don't want to be like, well, Vinny's been good, so let's blame Mike Sweeney because he's awesome.
Right.
But I don't know what went into that. That's probably one to where he may have had a tough time sleeping last night because fastball right down the middle, taking strike 1. Okay, working the count. Fastball way outside, swings through it, just flailing and not even a good swing.
And that was because of the first pitch.
Right.
Yeah.
And then changeup, low and outside, not close. Half swing through it, inning over. That was it felt like a surrender at bat or I need to come through here because we're down by 3 runs and this is the Twins and I got Bobby on base. Salvi's behind me. I may not bat again today. So I got to come through here. He just threw me a fastball down the middle, and now I'm sort of in my head about instead of just see ball, hit ball, now I'm in my head that I have to come through here with Bobby Witt on base. A double scores Bobby. All right, so I need to gap one here so we can make it 6-4, and Salvi's a swing away from tying this thing up.
At some point, it's almost like Vinny changed his plan. Because how many times do pitchers throw a first pitch fastball and Vinny just comes out of his shoes? I was a firm believer if you're going to throw me a first pitch fastball, I'm coming unglued, man, because that might be the best pitch I see. I mean, what's the most relaxed pitch a pitcher can throw? Is that first pitch, because if it's a ball, okay, no big deal. You still got 3 more to work with. So, yeah, he doesn't normally do that. That was out of his game, and then all of a sudden to take one, and then it got in his head because, oh, man, that was I can't make that same mistake, and then and so, I talked about the above margin guys that are really coming through as Vinny, even those guys. Salvi does it, Bobby Witt Jr. does it, just not as many as everybody else. You just have those mental fallout at bats where it doesn't click for you instead of just clearing your mind and staying within your mindset.
And that was sort of my that at bat. I'm like, with the plays they had last week, they won on Wednesday against the Red Sox. They won on Saturday. They blew the game on Friday, but they won on Saturday against the Cardinals. It was a 2-3 homestand. Could have been better. Could have been worse in the homestand. And then this big game against the Twins, and that second inning happens. And then in the 7th, 2 outs. In that at bat, my mind goes to, is this team trying to figure out how to win? And at that point trying to do too much instead of just being.
That's it. You said it right there.
Just being your regular guy.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time I saw him swing back-to-back at pitches that bad.
Right.
That's not what he does. That's the best part about Vinny is he's going to spit on both those. It's 2-1.
Yeah.
It's 2-1. Any other at bat, it feels like that it's 2-1, and we'll see what the next pitch is.
Yeah. The problem with that is that as you get this far into the season and the way the wild card situation is closing out, I mean, in a way, the Royals still have a shot to win the division.
Yes.
I mean, they do. They're right there in it, and you can't.
They've got plenty of games against Cleveland left.
Was it 6 or 7 games? I looked it up yesterday. I think it's either 6 or 7 games left against Cleveland.
Right, but you have to split with Minnesota before that becomes a reality. I mean, even a little bit. So you've got 2 opportunities to get in the playoffs here, but even in just one at bat like that in pressure situations, you're not going to be perfect. But you can't get out of your game plan. Mark Gubiza and Mike McFarland both used to always tell me, whether it's a pressure situation or your first at-bat of the game, both at-bats mentally and emotionally have to be the same. You can't let the situation get too big because if you do, that Vinny at-bat is what you end up doing. You know what I mean? You have to stay within yourself. You have to take the excitement and the surrealness of the game and push it aside. Some people can, some people can't. And the country, the world is full of guys athletically, physically, physically that can play this game at that high of a level. The reason why some people can't stay, sure, there's the guys that there's just no position for them. It's bad luck. They get labeled for it, even if they're not. But oftentimes, guys that get that taste but can't stay are the guys that mentally and emotionally can't carry the weight underneath or push the weight off of them to just say, I'm just going to do what I do. What I did got me here, so how about what I did carries me into a pressure situation? That's how you learn to win, not by trying so hard and then mentally you take yourself out.
Well, I think mentally this is a good little part here. I'm going to give you some numbers here, and you guess what part of the batting order.
Okay.
Just what spot this has been all year. This spot in the batting order is batting 220, on base at 270, slugging 325, OPSing 596.
All of them but 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a tough one. Even the number 9, I don't think that's it. I'm going to say it's a 50-50 toss-up, the 6-hole or the 7-hole, but then also maybe the 1-hole. So you're going to make me pick one?
Yeah, pick one.
Am I right between the 3? You give me that?
You're right between the 3 you chose.
All right. I'm going to say leadoff.
It's leadoff.
Yeah!
By the way, 5th spot, OPSing 724 this year. So 5th spot's not been quite as bad as we think.
That's true. I mean, Massey's been pretty good in the 5 hole behind Salvi, and Renfro's batted behind Salvi from time to time.
The 9 spot, OPSing 668. The leadoff spot is the worst in the entire lineup by a wide margin, 220, 270, 325. And I think part of that is, again, OPSing under 600. I think a lot of that's mental. Yeah. Because a lot of times you're seeing when these guys are getting hot, 8, 9, 5th spot, 6th spot, they get all of a sudden now they're batting leadoff. What happens? 0 for 5.
It's like you're talking. It's that mental thing. Now, I think it's a half and half here because I know Cotraro's trying to do the best job he can. We talked about that last week a little bit. How you can't go into the leadoff spot if you're not a traditional leadoff hitter and just all of a sudden, okay, now I have to be a leadoff hitter and I have to change everything. They're putting you there because you're hot, not because they expect that all of a sudden you can run fast, you can bunt for hits, steal a bunch of bases.
Sure,
you're just trying to get on base. The other part of that is, and it's the why behind that is, this team does not have a leadoff hitter. It doesn't. I mean, you might say, well, Bobby Wood Jr. could. Yeah, but he's not a – we need him the number 2.
How many more RBIs would he have if someone could get on base ahead of him?
No doubt. I mean, so then you tinker with putting him at the 3-hole, and now Bobby Wood Jr.
At bats over the course of a season.
You're losing at bats over the course of a season, and even though he is a superstar and a stud – does then your superstar stud start thinking, well, we're losing, we don't have production, it's why I've had to move here, so now I just got to start swinging for the fences every time, and then that changes his game.
22 at-bats, by the way. It'd be 22 at-bats lost for Bobby Witt Jr. if he were to bat 3rd instead of 2nd this year.
Well, in the second half of the season, that's probably between 11 and 13 hits. And how many RBIs?
No kidding. And you know, baseball is strange in that, you know, when you were talking about the number 9 spot and, you know, OPSing at 668 there, which – okay, I'll take it. If the number 9 hitter is going to be OPSing at almost, at 670, you know, your number 9 hole. Okay, great. That's essentially been Kyle Isbell this year.
Correct. It's basically exactly Isbell.
Which is, baseball's a weird thing in that Isbell, before Saturday's game, I guess it would have been Friday's game. So before the St. Louis series, Isbell hadn't had a hit since July 29th. Since the first game of the White Sox series when they went on the road and swept the White Sox. That was the last time he had a hit.
21 at-bats or something like that?
And now he's got 8 hits in the last 3 games. 3 straight multi-hit games. Like, baseball is weird.
It is weird.
And, you know, unfortunately, the Royals don't take advantage of your number 9 hitter getting on base 8 times in 3 games.
Well, let's remember that if Isbell doesn't have – if he's not in the lineup and somebody else goes 0 for, then we only have 5 hits because we had 8 hits last night, and he had 3 of them. So, and one of them was an RBI, I believe. And so, you know, let's remember that, you know, he had almost 50% of the hits for a guy that came in, you know, was 0 for 21 before the 3-game stretch. So it's not like we were powerhoused. I mean, the home run was impressive from Bobby in the first inning. That was amazing. A line drive that left in about 1.2 seconds. So, yeah, it's they're still trying to find something out of nothing in those other spots. It's just really tough to.
We'll take a timeout. Do want to pass along a little information. John Schreiber will make a rehab start starting tomorrow night for Northwest Arkansas. So Schreiber one step closer to coming off the IL and going into that bullpen. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling with Les Norman. We'll talk to him about this Royals team, the starting staff, and also baseball's back in the Olympics. So how do they do that? We'll take a timeout. More Zone next. with Les Norman heading up until 1 o'clock with Les Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City and Biesterveld and Crook. The Olympics return to baseball returns to the Olympics as the Olympics return to the United States in 2028. Also already been announced that that baseball will be in the 2032 games in Australia after having this one Olympic hiatus in France. So they'll return to playing baseball. Is there a way, Les, for Team USA to ever have professional Major League Baseball players on the team as opposed to free agents and minor leaguers, which is what they've traditionally had? They lost the gold medal game to Japan. That was in Tokyo. Japan won 1-0, but those were free agents and minor leaguers. Bubba Starling was on that team, in fact, and got the silver medal. Is there a way for Major League Baseball to embrace the Olympics for a couple of weeks in a tournament and be okay if Major League Baseball players played in the Olympics?
Yeah, I think there's some creative ways. I think that maybe you take like 2 max guys off of each team. That would give you a pretty solid team right there. I mean, teams can elect on whether they want to go or not based on a playoff situation. Maybe since it's 2 weeks, maybe you take one set of maybe 2 guys off of every team go the first week, and then they change the roster for the next week. It's still Team USA, but I still think you can get creative. When the players want to do it, I feel like you need to do it, and you need to put your best out there. I mean, it's easier, obviously, for the NBA. It's a shorter season, and it's the off season, and it just works that way. A lot harder with baseball, but I do think there's a way to get it done. I mean, if you can, I know the World Baseball Classic is in spring training, also a little bit easier to do, but during the season, I feel like there are creative ways. The union and the players need to sit down with the Olympic Committee and figure it out, because you're going to get. I think France would have done it, even though we're not very good at even the World Baseball Classic. So it's easy for them. Baseball and softball are bid sports. And so when France we get to pick, and now it's our turn to bully somebody because we get bullied in baseball. So we're going to bring in breakdancing and forget baseball and softball. You got to be kidding me. So, I think it's creative. I think that the next time the Olympics goes to one of those countries that isn't a baseball country, they just need to be able to hammer it out over these next few years so they have a plan in place instead of planning it then.
Would they ever take like 2 weeks off and just call it an Olympic year? We're playing 152 this year.
That would
10
be
games,
awesome.
152. We're taking 2 weeks off of baseball, and therefore anybody that's playing in Major League Baseball would be available if they wanted to be on Team USA, and it wouldn't be hurting a pennant chase. It wouldn't be hurting that particular player not being there, where, all right, well, the Royals are chasing the Guardians, and nobody from the Guardians is playing for Team USA or other countries. Bobby Witt, though, and Salvi's playing for Venezuela. Bobby Witt's and now the Royals are facing off against the Guardians, and they're missing, 3 guys on their team. Like that does put a wrench into the pennant chase. Like I think it would have to be Major League Baseball almost accepting, we're embracing this, we're expanding the game, we're bringing our best to the sport, we're allowing other Major League Baseball players to bring their best, and other countries to bring their best to the sport, to expand the game, and we'll take 2 weeks off, and we'll play 152, and we'll schedule around that to where we only miss 10 games somehow over that time. We'll include some doubleheaders earlier or later, but all we're going to miss is 10 games every 4 years in an Olympic year, and we'll know that when it comes to the stats and everything else.
Only problem with that is you get pitchers that get into a rhythm, and to take 2 weeks down, you can still long throw, you can simulated games, but it's still not the same thing. And, one of the hardest things in baseball is to be a bench player and come up when you don't have the timing of everything. And so when a guy's hot and doing really well, the last thing he wants, if a guy's going, 10 for 12 with 4 homers, and all of a sudden, you're really hot, you're seeing the ball well, but you're not going to play for 2 weeks, and you're not going to the Olympics. So that's really tough. That benefits really the guys that are continuing to play in the Olympics. Some pitchers may like it, but I think if you ask the majority of players, if you just give them 2 straight weeks off, I wasn't good enough to make the team, and now you're making me not play, and now my arm's not going to feel as good. you're going to have a lot of complaints right there. So I feel like the way they do it, the regular season's still going to have to go on.
Yeah, and I guess the how many teams would be okay with their pitchers pitching in the Olympics? Like, hey,
End up getting hurt. Oh, it's the Olympics' fault and the travel.
I mean, heck, we spent most of last season talking about Brady Singer's beginning of the year because of not pitching in the World Baseball Classic.
Right.
It's on the World Baseball Classic team.
Bobby's sitting on the bench,
Bobby
losing
was
at bats.
riding the pine and not developing. Brady Singer, his spring training was in April.
He has developed, by the way.
He has. Brady Singer's his spring training was in April because of the World Baseball Classic. Like, I don't know that it would ever be doable. It would be great if 1 year they could do it just to see what Team USA would look like. An all-star game of just players from America, all-star game of just players from Venezuela, the Dominican, and I know the World Baseball Classic does that, so we get a taste of it. But it doesn't feel as natural in February as it does in the middle of the Olympics when everybody does wrap themselves in the flag for 2 weeks and roots for sports that we would never watch before. I watch the hammer throw for about 20 minutes every 4 years. Right?
Yeah,
I
no doubt.
don't think I've ever watched the hammer throw any second of my life outside of every 4 years in the Olympics.
That's usually because it's sandwiched between televised coverage of track and field and Katie Ledecky
That's right,
going
yes.
for her 800th gold medal.
That's exactly right. Yes. Well, here's what we're live right now. We're taking you out there. This is the final round for the gold medal of the hammer throw. Oh, there's an American? I'm in. Let's watch.
Yeah.
No American? All right, well, let me go ahead and get something to eat or see what I can do in the meantime. It would be cool to see if they could do it. I just don't know that it's really doable from all of the team standpoint.
Yeah.
And the commissioner, and if they would be able to take those 2 weeks and just go and play baseball there, because other countries then would have their players. And so you'd have a lot of players that would be missing from teams, as opposed to we're just going to send our AAA players, our AA players, our prospects, and guys that are out of baseball, or we're playing for Team Japan. Not Team Japan, but we're playing in Japan that played for Team USA because they weren't in Major League Baseball.
And I know that this is not Rob's decision because he's more of a voice for the owners, but he's also a terrible commissioner. So I imagine whatever the good choice is to do for the Olympics, we will not make it as the Major League Baseball.
That's a
until
good point.
So
yeah, and
because we're only fighting, we're fighting for a gold, silver, and bronze piece of medal instead of just the flags one that we use every year.
Or the rectangular green things called legal tender.
There you go. Yeah.
Because the bottom line is that if, you take Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber and Nola and Suarez
and Wheeler
or whoever out of the lineup. I mean, now you've got 5,000 people on a team that's going to contend for a World Series title, right?
Yeah.
Or any team that's going to contend for a World Series title. You're taking your gate money off the field for 2 weeks, and so that is something I'm not sure that Major League Baseball, yes, we want to expand the game, and we're looking down the road, but expanding the game is playing games in the middle of a race car track. Yeah. Expanding games is playing in London or in those other places around the world during the season, and it's the same teams. It's not taking 2 weeks off of the game.
Yeah, 17 of the 24 players were AAA players on that 2021 roster. And, looking through, Bubba Starling's a name because of around here. And I don't know if there was anybody else that I'm looking at, just trying to scan through real quick of, the prospect mind coming in. There's names like Scott Kazmir and Todd Frazier played on that team. But that's because Todd Frazier wasn't playing baseball at that time, and Kazmir was playing in Japan. So they were able to play at that time. And Nick Martinez is playing for the Reds now, and he was playing in Japan at that time. So he played for Team USA, that particular year. So
if we could figure out who was on the fringe of being called up at that time.
Yeah.
But then again, none of the teams are going to want to send their guy. They want them on the roster. So
and if they get hurt,
that too.
Right. It's over. We're never doing this again.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back. I want to talk about something that did not happen last night in the game. We'll get Les's thoughts on that. And Jack Caglione, a missile grand slam. I mean, I kind of feel like he's ready now. I'm joking. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Mr. Belden Crook. We went through some of the numbers for Brady Singer in the first hour, and the difference between games that he pitches against teams that are above 500 or below 500, and that's even more exaggerated since May, in that he's had 13 outings since May, 7 starts against teams above 500, 6 starts against teams below 500. And at the beginning of the year, he was just pitching well, whether the team was good or bad, indifferent, whatever. He was just pitching well. Those 7 starts against, or 6 starts against teams that are sub 500, his ERA is 1.34 with a whip of 0.89, an average of 6 2/3 innings pitched. So damn near handing the ball off to the bullpen with only 2 innings to go. 7 starts against teams above 500 in that time, 6.95 ERA, a 1.8 whip, and he's averaging 4 2/3 innings pitched. 2 full innings fewer with an earned run average of 5.6 higher and a full base runner whip every inning against the good teams, or at least teams above 500. It's even more stark than what the overall numbers say. Is there anything you can do to fix that, correct that? Is that only primarily using the 2 pitches? Is it just that that's his profile as a major league pitcher, in that he's a good 4th or 5th guy, to where against a good team, he's going to go out there and throw some BBs and give you a win. And against the bad teams, you hope the bats are ready to go that particular night.
That is a chasm between those two. I mean, the looking across the abyss of difference. So the short answer is there's one place that you could find your game, and that's for him is the bullpen. You know, I mean, just that's where you're going to need to go. Because if the trend continues, then what you're showing isn't bad luck. It's showing that against good teams, you're either pressing, you're not throwing your changeup enough. I mean, again, he got hit on breaking balls, I think, mostly last night from what I saw. And with a ball that moves that much, when he's pitching well and he can control it, your changeup should be your second pitch, and your slider should be your third pitch or cutter, whatever you're throwing. But I think one of the pitches was a pretty good job by the hitter, but still overall, I feel like it's the breaking ball that gets hit more. In years past, we were talking about how he was just living over the middle of the plate, and I thought that he corrected that and has done a better job doing that, but that was because he gained confidence in a changeup that he didn't want to throw. So I feel like if he doesn't go back to that, we are seeing the best maybe that we're going to get, because what's left to improve upon, it's okay, we'll learn how to throw your slider better. At this point, he's been there long enough. So he's pitching himself into, you're probably 4 or 5 guy in any major league rotation, at least middle market team or lower market team, because on a team that's contending every year, you're not going to crack that lineup. You become a bullpen guy, and so the changes are going to have to be in the pitches that you throw, not the mechanics that you're using.
He threw 95 pitches last night. 11 of those were non-sinker slider. So 2-seam slider, sinker slider, which we know those are his 2 pitches. He threw 9 4-seam fastballs, and he threw 2 changeups in the game. So 11.
2 changeups, ladies and gentlemen.
11 of his 95 pitches.
And how hard does he throw? What's his fastball read?
He averages on the sinker 95, 94 and a half. 4-seam averages 94.
No, his average sinker.
Oh, sorry, that was max. I apologize.
92.1.
Averages 92 with this is just last night. He averages 92 last night. Year average is 92.2, and then his 4-seam is 91.2.
But his changeup moves pretty well. Moves pretty, down and in, kind of like his sinker. I mean, he's naturally got good movement, but the slider just has not seemed to have been working as much. And so when your slider is getting hit, I know, again, it was 1 inning, it was 1 bad inning, every pitcher has it, but I'm going back to the stat that you just read, Jason, that against sub-500 teams,
a 1.34 ERA.
Sub-1.4 ERA. I mean, it's a big difference.
You can get away with the sinker-slider combo against bad teams, against bad hitters. Against good teams, you're going to have something more. The number of pitches he's thrown this year, he's thrown 931 sliders, 913 sinkers, 255 4-seamers, which is, again, primarily used against left-handers.
Yeah.
And then 55 changeups. He's pretty much just scrapped the changeup and has thrown the 4-seamer instead. But, again, against good left-handed hitters, we've seen the numbers. It's not great.
Huge advantage to hitters. If I'm hitting and I know that he's only thrown 55, if he throws a change, unless I have 2 strikes, if he throws a changeup, I'm not swinging at it. I don't care if it's right down the middle.
I'm only thinking sinker slider.
Yeah, I'll probably roll over and hit it because of the speed. Even if I know it's coming, I'll probably roll over it because I'll get too jumpy because he's going to throw it right down the middle. And he may not even throw it for a strike. So I would just kind of spit on it and look for sinker slider. And the way he's been throwing his slider, I'm even just look for that.
Do I worry in a game about a pitch that the guy throws 9% of the time, or do I go up there thinking the pitches that the guy throws 91% of the time?
Yeah, you know the answer. We all know the answer to that.
Absolutely. Last night, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you want to know, I think this is pretty interesting, how many home runs he's given up versus lefties versus righties this year?
Bring it.
12 home runs given up against left-handed batters, 3 against righties.
Well, one of them was last night.
His whip, 1.66 against lefties. 0.81 against righties. He's been nails against righties because of the sinker slider combo. It's just that third pitch.
Yeah. So last night, Bobby Witt gets hit in the 5th inning. 2 outs, nobody on. Coincidentally, 2 outs, nobody on. Bobby Witt up there, and Lopez just happens to lose one high and inside that hits Bobby in the upper arm, shoulder area that was still rising. I don't know. Very coincidental that happened where Lopez didn't lose another pitch the entire game. He just happened to lose that one against Bobby Witt. I was really hoping Brady would go out there in the next inning in the bottom of the 5th and put one on somebody's thigh or back or something, and he ends up walking the first batter anyway, and he's got a 3-0 pitch, and
perfect time, right?
Throws a fastball down the middle, then a slider. Then he walks him on a slider, and the guy's at first. And there's nothing on the other side of that. I think it's way too coincidental that Lopez just happened to lose that pitch.
I agree. There was only one pitch the entire game that was a little bit close, and it was to Salvi earlier in the game, and you could tell he was just trying to get him up and in because Salvi sometimes chases those pitches, especially when you've thrown him a slider away, and so he's leaning just a little bit, tries to pull up with that front shoulder, and either misses it or pops it up. There was another at-bat that was right down the middle, but because he was thinking away, he wasn't expecting middle, which a right-hander that dives, then you throw it down the middle. The hitters created it as an inside pitch, and so you got to kind of drop that barrel a little bit to make up some ground, and you fly out to right field or you pop it up to second base. And so that was the only other pitch. And if you think about it, what better pitch to try to take a superstar out of a game than the high inside, oops, it got away from me, when you haven't thrown anything the whole rest of the time. It's easy to say it was an accident. You're going to see a lot more of that these last few months with contending teams or with in division rivals to try to take your stud out of his game.
They were up 6-2. It's in the 5th inning. 2 outs, nobody on. Game 1 of a 3-game series in a huge 3-game series. And I'm going to come high and inside. And if I hit him, I hit him because I'm going to pitch around him anyway.
Yeah.
With 2 outs. And I hit him. And the Royals go back out there down 6-2 still. Brady Singer's already at 80 pitches. There was already somebody warming up the inning before. Like, step up for Bobby.
Yep.
And hit him and say, this not happening today.
Right.
Not happening. Let's
Smoke
get some
'em,
fire.
Win or lose, just drill somebody and let it be felt.
Yeah. I don't know. That was very frustrating. I would have liked to see that happen. It would a little more respect gained back from
and as
outing.
As an opposing team's hitter, I get it. I respect it. That's your stud. If you want to hit me because you think maybe I'm equivalent to that guy, all right. Badge of honor.
It's a compliment.
No doubt.
But you can't throw at Buxton or Royce Lewis because those guys would shatter. So, not trying to injure somebody. Those guys are often injured already.
Right.
But still, that was a little disappointing. Les, never disappointing talking to you. Appreciate you, brother.
You got it, buddy.
We'll take a timeout. Adam Teicher next. heading up until 2 o'clock, handing off to the program. We talk with Adam Teicher from ESPN, Chiefs Insider, presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Adam, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Good, Jason. How you doing today?
I am doing just fine. Watched the game again last night. Another time through. Let's start with just in general before we get into some specifics and hone in on some different topics. But in the game, you come away with what after that Jags game?
Well, I mean, a lot of things, really. You know, they got a lot of work to do in some areas. Certainly special teams, that's obvious. I'm wondering about their tackling on defense. I mean, they just don't practice that at all. So, that probably needs a little work. Those are two things that really stood out to me. Here's another thing, though. It's starting to look like the Chiefs really hit with their draft again this year. I think even though he didn't really show up during the game in terms of making any plays, Xavier Worthy's going to make a difference for them this year. And it certainly looks like Kingsley Suamataia is going to be a starter for him at left tackle, and I think he's going to handle that job maybe adequately when the season starts. But the expectation for the Chiefs is he's going to get better as the season goes on. And I thought Jaden Hicks is another guy who maybe the Chiefs are going to get more out of than they anticipated maybe when they drafted him, more out of him as a rookie maybe. So it looks like they're going to get what they hoped for, but probably beyond their expectations from this rookie class, at least from those three guys.
Yeah, Adam Teicher is our guest. I'm with you. I liked what I saw from Kingsley Suamataia, and Jaden Hicks certainly jumped off the screen. We'll talk about Carson Steele a little bit as well, and not necessarily a podium game, but a next practice podium from the game for Carson Steele and Jaden Hicks both. But let's start with the special teams, because that was one of the bigger takeaways from the game. Everybody curious about what the kickoff would look like, what the kickoff return would look like, how the Chiefs were going to cover it. Would they pooch it? Would they drill it through the end zone? How common were long returns? And early returns, figuratively, not great for the Chiefs. It was a bad day. There's no getting around that for the Chiefs special teams overall. And this was an offseason and a preseason where it was like, all right, time for Dave Toub to shine. Let's see what, a guy who's considered a great special teams coach, let's see what they got. And it was rough, from a holding penalty to a couple of longer returns to a safety. I mean, to a muffed punt. Like, it was all over the board. Special teams was really, really bad.
Yeah, and there's some there's some time left, so I think the Chiefs can fix at least some of these things and maybe all of it. But here's my thought on what I saw in practice yesterday that really struck me as something being significant. They've been trying to do so much, speaking specifically of the new kickoffs, both kickoff and kickoff return. They've been trying to do a lot of different things with a lot of different people trying to adjust to this rule. And then yesterday in practice, they really cut back the number of guys they had working on things. For instance, they had, I want to say maybe 9, 10, 11 guys working as the kickoff returners on the new kickoff return thing. Remember that they really need 2 guys to do it. Well, they really cut back that number. I think yesterday there was only maybe 5 guys who were doing it. So I don't know whether that's just a factor of the Chiefs know that the regular season's coming. They got to start narrowing it down, or whether they decided, hey, we're trying to do too much with too many guys, and we need to really streamline the process if we're going to figure this thing out in time for the regular season. I'll have a chance to ask Dave Toub about that tomorrow, and really looking forward to seeing what he says about that, because it seemed to me that maybe the Chiefs are saying, okay, we realize that we've been kind of scattered all over the map on this thing, and now we really need to focus in not so much teaching it to a bunch of guys, but teaching it to the guys who are going to be doing it for us during the regular season.
Do you remember who the 5 guys that were returning kicks were in yesterday's practice?
Yeah, I don't have my notes with me, but it was McCole Hardman, Nico Remigio, let me go through my list here, but I don't have my notes. Phillip Brooks was one of them.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Amani Bailey was one of them. There was one more. It was somebody who's going to make the team.
Somebody that's definitely
Sky Moore. It was
Oh,
Sky
okay.
Moore.
Yeah.
So of those 5 guys, I think only 3 of them, meaning Moore, Hardman, and Remigio, are going to make the team or have a good chance of making the team. So it seems like they've really narrowed this thing down a little bit. Now, today they were doing a little bit, and they had Luis Rees-Zammit back there doing some returns. So they haven't given up completely on that idea, but they really have seemed to have narrowed things down a little bit and eliminated some guys from the process.
So it's interesting that Deneric Prince wasn't listed as one of those guys when that play happens. You know, I watched it, and when it first happened, I'm like, one, I thought it was a touchback. I'm like, all right, it was confusing. The referees at first thought it was a touchback. Then they were after huddling, then they stayed with it being a touchback, and then it had to be finally officially challenged with the upstairs, and then they eventually figured out that okay, so he didn't officially have possession until the ball was brought back to him, so that was back in the end, whatever it was that they went with. But to me, the issue was that Deneric Prince let it go. Like that.
That's my point.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that made the mistake.
Forget about the rule or how the officials ruled it. Forget about that. None of that matters. What matters is in a year where there's so much unknown and so you can't leave anything, you can't take anything for granted. He just sort of said, that ball's somebody else's problem. And good for McCole Hardman for kind of jumping on it toward the end. I mean, I think he tried to save what could have been a disastrous play for the Chiefs. I mean, that would have been a live ball had he not jumped on that. So he made it 2 points for Jacksonville instead of 7 points for Jacksonville.
Well, and this is where the debate comes in. Where's the player responsibility? Where's the coach responsibility with that? Okay, the rule last year was that if it touched in the end zone, no matter what happened after that, it was a dead ball. You could go and catch it in the end zone if you want to and bring it out. But if the ball hit the ground in the end zone on the fly, dead ball, it's going to the 25-yard line. That was last year's rule. This year's rule is that there are no dead balls unless it lands before the 20. But anything in the end zone, it's all going to be a live football. So that's what's sort of confusing for me, in that somebody who's returning kicks for the Chiefs would forget that every ball now that goes past the 20 is a live football and just lets it go over his head because it's going to land in the end zone. Is that the coaching staff that isn't drilling it at home enough on the finer details of this? Or is that Deneric Prince like, oh, bleep, that's right, I remember you telling me that, coach. Oh, yeah, I guess it's not a live football anymore. Okay, well, then we can't have you returning kicks if you don't know that particular detail that we've been trying to, let people know. Like, is that coaching or is that Deneric Prince?
Yeah, I think it's probably, there's enough blame to go around where it's both of them. But my point is, what I would be teaching these guys is that, hey, listen, this thing is, forget everything you used to know about kickoff returns. Forget everything you used to know, because that no longer applies. So every ball that's loose, go for it, no matter where it lands or where it goes, unless it goes out of bounds. Then you can let it go. But other than that, this is a live ball situation. And now whether that point was made or whether it wasn't made or whether Deneric Prince just wasn't listening, I can't say right now, but that problem needs to be fixed. I mean, they need to make sure that whoever is going to be handling that job understands the rules. And that to me speaks to narrowing it down. You don't need to have 10 guys back there working on kickoff returns anymore. You've got a game coming up in 3 weeks or whatever it is. It's time to narrow this thing down. And rather than teaching it to a bunch of guys, many of whom are not going to make the team, you teach it to guys who are going to be doing it for you on game day.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that. Adam Teicher's our guest from ESPN. After watching some of the returns this weekend, it really feels like there's a potential for some big plays, big returns. Because after that first line, it's like you get through that first line and then it's green grass. It's open. And I'm watching it this weekend, Adam, and I'm like, I feel like more teams are just going to say, we'll take the extra 5 yards. We'll give them the ball at the 30 because it's better than giving them the ball potentially at the 40. I mean, the Chiefs had a holding penalty that was brought back, but, Remigio got out to the 40, I think, on the one good return that the Chiefs had. But that got out to the 40. The Jags got out to the 40, on the one that he eventually slipped and fell. I'm looking at it and going, all right, just put it through the end zone. I know that it's 25 to the 30, but I just do wonder, as this thing goes further and further into the season, Adam, if that chance of a huge return is worth it kicking off than just giving them the ball at the 30-yard line moving forward.
Yeah, but here's the thing I wonder about the Chiefs. They've been stubborn about some of these things.
That's true.
When it comes to special teams.
That's a good point.
Over the years. For instance, they were just bound and determined to show the world a couple of years ago that Sky Moore could return punts. And it ended up costing him a game in Indianapolis that he couldn't, or what was really struggling with it. So at what point will the Chiefs say, what, enough is enough? And until we have this thing practice to the point where we feel like we can do a better job of it, we're going to kick it into the end zone and let the team take it, let the opponent take it at the 30-yard line. I just wonder what it's going to take for the Chiefs to get to that point where they say, okay, enough's enough. So I don't think the Chiefs will get to that point anytime soon, I guess is my point, given their history with these kinds of things.
Yeah, I'd wonder if the overall general philosophy is that we're going to kick the ball, go and cover it, tackle them before the 30-yard line. But late in the game, if we've got a lead, we're not chancing that. We're putting it through the end zone because that's the smarter strategy late in the game. Overall, throughout the course of the season, maybe it makes a difference of a yard or two here or there per game, and we're going to play those percentages. But in the fourth quarter, and this team needs a field goal, I'm not giving them a chance to start at the 40. We'll give it, we may just have to take our medicine and start at the 30. I'm not sure what the strategy at that point will be.
Well, yeah, and I think the strategy in this is going to be interesting. Maybe it's not going to be a slam dunk every time on how you handle it, but particularly teams that are struggling to cover those things, I feel like that's probably the better strategy more often than not.
And they did have one that bounced into the end zone, and the Jags got it at the 20. So, if you can find a way to do that more often, hey, perfect. That's what you would want to do. There's the perfect strategy.
I feel like it's the like pitching inside to Bobby Witt, to tie it back to something earlier, where I'm going to kick it in the end zone. If it bounces out of the back of it, great. If he nails it in the end zone, great. If he tries to take it out of the end zone, even better because it's better coverage. That's at least that would be my game plan, but also it's very hard to accurately kick a football wherever you want it. But
and there's 2 more weeks of preseason games,
right?
So we'll get a better idea of what these look like. But man, it just feels, Adam, that the way the players are lined up at the 35 and the 40, that is sort of one wave to go and tackle. And if you bust through that, it's like, all right, well, there you go. that guy might be gone. It's just it seems like there's going to be a whole lot more of excitement, which is what the NFL wanted. And I don't know how many special teams coaches on the kickoff and the head coaches are going to be okay with that excitement and that nervousness of getting through the front line and being gone.
Yeah, and I think the strategy is a big part of this. How do you handle this? What's the right thing to do? And I think that's going to take some time for teams to figure out. What is the right thing to do? Is it just to kick away and give the opponent the ball at the 30-yard line, or what's the right thing to do? I mean, I find it hard to believe that if the average starting field position is going to be the 26, 27, 28-yard line after a kick return, why you would risk that for 2 yards, or 3 yards. I think that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So we'll see, but I think the strategy is going to be a big part of this too.
Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN, Chiefs Insider. Chiefs take the loss over the weekend to the Jags. Get ready for the Lions in preseason game number 2. Concern level, Adam, with Hollywood Brown, one play. one clavicle dislocated. He missed 3 games last year. He missed 7 games the year before. He has had some injury issues that he has dealt with. What's the concern level for you? And if you can read it, maybe what do you think the concern level is for the Chiefs with Hollywood Brown going down?
Yeah, not what the Chiefs wanted, not what he wanted for sure. But this is not going to be a long-term injury. I mean, he should be back at some point early in the season. So, and maybe in the long run, this will be the best thing for him, saving a little bit of wear and tear, but we'll see. But, yeah, it is another injury. He has not had a complete season I don't think either of his seasons in Arizona were a full season. So it's been a while for him, and I just wonder how the Chiefs are going to handle this without him, what this is going to look like and how it's going to go. He's such a big part of what they have going at wide receiver. And, Rashee Rice has kind of quietly had a really nice camp. He looks like a guy who, injuries willing and suspensions willing, is going to have a big season here. So I think he's the least of their problems. I think Xavier Worthy will be a productive player, if not necessarily a high volume kind of guy. I think he'll help, but they've got to have somebody else in that rest of this group step up now, whether it's Justin Watson or Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman, or somebody else has to be a better, more consistent and productive player for the Chiefs than they had from their wide receivers last year, when it was basically Rice out there all by himself. So they've got to have somebody doing that, and I just don't know who that's going to be. I don't see it. Mecole Hardman being a consistent, every down kind of player like that, and the Chiefs have been disappointed the last 2 years by what they've gotten from Sky Moore, and Justin Watson is certainly a useful player, but is he ready for that kind of every down thing? The Chiefs were so excited when camp started and as camp rolled on about the big 3 guys and all the things they could do when Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and Rashee Rice were on the field at the same time in conjunction with maybe Pacheco and Travis Kelce. But, now they're not going to get that, at least for a little while. And so somebody else has to be a big part of this, and I just don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, and, I mean, Matt Nagy said Justin Watson today, filling in for Hollywood Brown. It was Sky Moore over the weekend because Justin Watson did not play. But, I mean, it's a downgrade when you go from Hollywood to Justin Watson. I mean, they like Watson. He's going to be in the right spot, but being in the right spot's different than having a guy like a Hollywood Brown. I also thought it was interesting. The first play of the game was for Xavier Worthy.
Yes.
And they rolled that safety over the top, and Andy Reid saying they showed a coverage that we weren't expecting. They rolled the safety over the top, so it meant that there was somebody waiting for Xavier Worthy, and so he threw it to Hollywood Brown underneath. It was a completion, all good. Just happens to be that he fell and got landed on awkwardly. I kind of feel like it's good news for Mecole Hardman if Hollywood Brown's going to miss week 1. Or the injury is going to go into the regular season, to have that speed out there on the field that we know they like. So I think it might be good news for Mecole Hardman. Do you think if Hollywood is going to miss a game or two, I don't think they're going to put him on IR because I don't think it's going to last 4 weeks into the season, but does it mean then that they're, almost definitely going to go with 7 wide receivers at that point if Hollywood might miss, the Ravens game or the Ravens and Bengals game?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think this is an injury that's going to necessitate the Chiefs putting him on IR. So I think he'll be back before he'll be back at a point where that's not necessary for them to do. So I agree. And but yeah, particularly if he can't play against Baltimore and or Cincinnati, they will need 7 guys. And you're right. I mean, Mecole Hardman is the guy who might benefit in terms of making the roster when he otherwise might not have.
Yeah.
He seemed a little bit redundant to me when the Chiefs had both Brown and Worthy in the lineup, but so now with Brown not being in there, I think there's his chances of making the team have gone up dramatically.
What do you make of Kadarius Toney? You know, I mean, he was out there today, but wearing pads, not participating, not out there playing and taking any reps. I mean, is this just playing out the string in the next couple of weeks until they finally just cut the umbilical cord and move on?
It very well could be, because what this has the look of now is a guy who they just don't want him to get hurt before they place him on waivers. That's what this has the look of it at this point right now. He just didn't do anything out there today, and so he would have been involved had the Chiefs had some plans for him.
Yeah.
So, I think it's becoming evident that he's not going to really be a part of what they've got going on. I mean, things can always change, but as of now, he's certainly on the outside looking in. He's done nothing at camp, even when he's been out there, that has led you to believe that he's going to be a more productive player than he was last year. So I think he's been clearly of all the guys who are going to make competing to make the team, he's been the least productive. Clearly, among there's 9 guys who I think are competing for the 6 spots, and he's the one who's gotten the least done. So I just don't see it with him right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Andy Reid said yesterday, it's consistency. You need to see the guy in consistency, and they obviously haven't seen that. And then Matt Nagy today that he's got to get out there. He's got to be healthy. He's got to be on the field. He's got to be taking reps. And he hadn't been doing that. He didn't do it in voluntary stuff because he didn't show up, and he's been injured in camp right now. I think it's an interesting point of keep him healthy so they can waive him and not have to deal with an injury and paying and all of that stuff. Although if they waive him and let him go, it's the full salary, right, for him this year? Like it's all guaranteed, so it's just dead cap hit for Kadarius Toney at that point.
Well, it depends on somebody. If somebody claims him off waivers and picks up the contract, then the Chiefs wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening with that. But yeah, it's fascinating what's going on this summer, and then getting reps at running back early on in camp. Is he going to even be on the team? Do you think they have any interest in Juju Smith-Schuster? I wouldn't, but do you think they do?
I don't know what role he would fill anymore.
Yeah.
He's got another couple of years of wear and tear on him now than when he was with the Chiefs. And I just don't see it. I don't know that he's an upgrade over any of the guys they've got, the other guys they've got right now. So, no, I really don't see that. I think the solution for the Chiefs at wide receivers, the guys they have on the roster, they got to find one of those guys and make him into a more consistent, productive player than what they had at wide receiver, other than Rashee Rice last year.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Adam Teicher from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. One more segment with Adam. We'll get into his thoughts on some players from this weekend and what he saw from that, and how much the 53-man roster might have been adjusted after one preseason game so far. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, Adam, it was only 6 snaps in the game. Okay, it was only 6 snaps. But would you say Kingsley is closer to like a 4-time All-Pro or a Hall of Famer after watching those 6 snaps? Which one do you think he's closely resembles in your mind?
Maybe the best left tackle who's ever played in the NFL.
That's what I was thinking. Yes, okay, so we're on the same page. So we saw the same thing. Good to know.
Okay.
But in all seriousness, what did you see in those only 6 snaps? But didn't look like he was a problem out there, and he had a couple of snaps where he was one-on-one against Josh Allen Hines or Hines Allen.
Yeah, no, he handled his business, and we've talked about this before, Jason. But this is part of the Chiefs' thinking here. They've been with him from the start. They've sort of been banking on improvement as the season goes on. And he'll be better at the end of training camp, for instance, than he was at the start of training camp. And I think that's probably the case, and he'll be better on opening day than he is right now, and he'll be better in the middle of the season than he is on opening day, and by the end of the season, he'll be better than he was in the middle of the season. So they're banking on that a lot with him, and so there's a lot to work with, and even though Andy Reid won't say it yet, it certainly looks like he's going to be their guy on opening day at left tackle.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that when he was taken out with the rest of the first-team offensive line, I'm like, okay, well, that tells you all you need to know, that he's their guy right now. Wanya Morris dealing with an injury, but still, he was in there, started, looked pretty good. Again, it was one particular rep that sticks out in my mind where it was just him versus Josh Hines Allen, and he held his own. And I thought it was interesting, Adam, hearing him today when asked about things that he took away from his first NFL game and wearing the pads and everything. And he said, it went well. It was a great experience, a great rusher like, that Josh Allen. And he said, I went against these guys. I can play here. And that stood out as one of the comments from Kingsley, because I think there's always got to be a question, right, for a rookie questioning themselves. How good am I? I know I was drafted in the 2nd round, but can I play at this level? Okay, I've gone up against Karlaftis, and I've gone up against Herring, and I've gone up against FAU in Dana in practice. Now I'm going up against a guy who's one of the highest paid at his position, and I held my own. What do you think that does for Kingsley? And then hearing him also verbalize that of one of his takeaways in just 6 snaps is that I can play at this level.
Yeah, no, certainly, confidence is a big part of it, and it seems like he's gaining that every day as every day goes by. That's one thing that you hear from people with the Chiefs when you talk about him is he's just sort of a guy who keeps his head down and doesn't get distracted by things, and is serious about getting better, and so maybe that's what we're seeing here, but. Clearly, right now, he's the least of their problems, no doubt.
Let's talk about a couple of other rookies that stood out that Andy Reid also specifically mentioned in his opening statement on Saturday that stood out. Let's stay on the offensive side. Carson Steele, and then having his press conference yesterday and learning about Crocky J, his pet alligator, since he was in the 2nd or 3rd grade. But he looked like the best. He and Pacheco looked like the best running backs on the team, like actual running backs, fullback or not. They looked like the best running backs. What do you think? So what if I'll just go this way with it. What have you seen from Carson Steele in camp? Has he looked like he did in the game? And from the time he got here in camp and then that game, is he giving himself or is he solidifying a spot on this team to bring back a fullback, but also a guy who looks like he can just simply play running back?
Yeah, you kind of touched on this. What happens in camp is a very important part of the equation for the Chiefs. I mean, they like seeing a guy do well in the preseason games, but don't make too much of one game and seeing a guy do something good in one preseason game, because the Chiefs are going to base this on a big, much larger body of work. But, having said that, in his case, I think it is a little bit of a confirmation of what we've seen at training camp. I've talked a little bit about this. He's not just some big guy who can run people over. I mean, he's got a little bit of wiggle to him. He can make a guy miss. I mean, that's not necessarily his strength, but he can do that. I think he's a more complete player than what you might think by looking at him. And so I think there's possibilities for him beyond just saying, okay, he's a fullback. I think he can do some other things. So, whether he's well-rounded enough to be an Andy Reid running back, catching the ball, and in his case, he's going to have to play special teams and do well on that. So, those things are maybe still have to be answered. But I think in terms of running the ball, he's kind of proved that he can do that. And so maybe it's the other things that are going to determine whether he makes the team or not. I think he's got a pretty good chance.
Yeah, something about him. I don't know what it is, but he's sneaky athletic. I don't know why. I just think of him as sneaky athletic. He looks like a real gym rat, like just a real cerebral player too. I don't know what it is. Just a real sneaky athletic guy.
Well, I think it should be an NFL rule. You have to keep a guy on your roster if he's got a pet alligator.
Well, that's a good point. That's a great point.
I think that should be a rule if it's not already. Maybe it's already in the book. I don't know.
Yeah, then prospects will just buy a pet alligator before the combine. I don't know if you know this, Coach, but I do own a pet alligator. Oh, well then, we might as well bring you on the team right now. Matt Nagy said earlier today, this stood out to me when talking about Carson Steele. And he said, he was talking about, the things he needs to improve on, footwork, he knows his assignments, etc., all that stuff. And he said he's at the right place at the right time. You can trust him. I thought that was really interesting from Matt Nagy talking about a rookie running back who's not only learning the running back aspect of it, but also he will be, if he's on the team, will be playing some fullback part of it. To hear the offensive coordinator say about him that, right place at the right time, you can trust him. I think it was a pretty big compliment to Carson Steele.
Yeah, no doubt. And, he doesn't say that about everybody. And, I feel like there's some guys the Chiefs have had around for more than one season that the Chiefs don't trust in all situations.
Right.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire in terms of pass blocking. So for him to say that, it is maybe an eye-opener in terms of, what he brings and his readiness to play right now.
Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN. Okay, the last one I wanted to get your thoughts on Jaden Hicks and his game on Saturday. Again, it's not just about one game, but to me, not being up there at every practice like you guys have been, it seems to be a common theme about what Jaden Hicks has done since he put on a Chiefs uniform for the first time and sort of backing up the thought process of how was this guy still there in the fourth round.
Yeah, well, that for sure. Already with him. But, that was just a confirmation. The game the other night was a confirmation of what Hicks had been doing in training camp. He's been a playmaker. He's been a guy who's gotten things done out there. And I'm just wondering whether he's forcing his way into some defensive playing time. I don't know how big his role would be, but I think he's done enough with his playmaking that they need to find a way to get him on the field, if not on an every down basis, then in some of their packages, because, and I know the Chiefs have some depth at safety, but I think at this point he's maybe too good and too valuable, the things that he brings, to just leave him on the bench or make him just a solely a special teams player.
No, that the play that he made when he came down, because he was already playing in the box a little bit, but he came down, took on the tight end, set the edge. Tank Bigsby was starting to cut outside. He pursued him. Bigsby stopped, cut back, and then he made the tackle. That's not rookie stuff to set the edge like that and then still pursue, force him back inside, and then make the tackle. I thought that was really good play.
There's something there with him, no doubt, and you'd hate to see that kind of ability standing over there on the sideline.
As we look at the makeup of the team right now, I think Carson Steele is certainly doing a lot to get himself a job. Pacheco's on the team. They're going to have Kelsey, Gray, and Wiley on the team as well. Do they have room for Deneric Prince, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Irv Smith? Or one of those guys is going to have to go, and maybe two of them, depending on what they do at offensive line, if they want to keep 10 guys?
Yeah, well, I think the injury to Highwood Brown complicates that in that, maybe the Chiefs have to keep 7 at wide receiver, and where's that body coming from? Is it coming from the tight end group or the offensive line group, or maybe it comes on defense. I don't know, but that complicates everything. So no, you got to keep 3 running backs. You need all those guys because they've had to go just about every year. They've had to go into their depth at that position. So I don't see how you get by with any less than that. And man, we know how Andy Reid likes his multiple tight end formations. He can choose from a bunch of different guys with 4 guys he's got now. It's hard for me to see him letting one of those guys go. So I think they'll go a little lighter on the offensive line. I'm not sure they have 10 guys that they'll need, or 10 guys who are NFL quality players right now. So I would think they would keep no more than 9 on the offensive line.
Yeah, I think the 9 sounds about right. The 5 starters, and then Caliendo, Wanya Morris, probably Niang and Norzad are the ones, and Hansen, see if he gets to practice squad or not. Chu Godric, he's the international guy, so I mean he's got the spot on the roster as well. Last one for you, as far as the running backs are concerned. Again, Carson Steele with the game that he had and what he's done at camp. Isaiah Pacheco's number 1, and if they only keep 3 running backs, is it Pacheco and Clyde and either Prince or Steele, or is it Pacheco and whichever 2 running backs they decide are the best, and Edwards-Helaire isn't necessarily already on the team?
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder about him too. Just he didn't practice yesterday. He didn't practice today, and hey, you wish him best of luck with his struggles with the PTSD. But if it's going to keep him from practicing, if it's going to keep him from being the best player he can be, you wonder a little bit. Can the Chiefs afford to keep him on the roster? So that's going to be an interesting decision that I think hasn't played out yet. I think that Chiefs have some time before they have to get to that point. But man, I just as much as they need all 3 of those guys, it's going to be tough if he just can't answer the bell in a particular week or for a particular game for him to make the roster.
Adam Teicher from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. Adam, as always, appreciate the time, brother. Enjoy the game coming up this weekend, and we will talk next Tuesday.
All right, good stuff, Jason. Talk to you then.
Absolutely. There's Adam Teicher joining us here on Sports Radio 810 WHB on this Tuesday edition. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. One more segment to go. Talk a little bit about what Adam was discussing there, and I want to, look at the offensive side of the football and the 53-man roster, what the Hollywood Brown injury does, and what Carson Steele's play and ability also does for what it could be for this roster, and how the Chiefs come to 25 offensive players when it's ultimately cut down time. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. Thank you to Adam Teicher from ESPN joining us, talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and what we saw from game number 1 of this preseason. The Minnesota Twins still have not named a starting pitcher for tonight. Hopefully it's somebody making their debut because the Royals have been awesome against those guys. They should bring up more guys that Royals hitters don't know much about because they just crush them.
They're better against, like, Scooble than they are against, like, a quad A guy.
Give me Dylan Cease than a guy making his major league debut.
I would rather the Royals face Prime DeGrom than
making his major league debut
than
guy.
some guy making their major league. I don't know. They just struggle against those dudes.
Struggling.
Like, I'm convinced that I could go out there and throw 6 shutout innings because they've never seen me before.
Just making your debut. That's what it is. So Adam Teicher talking about this Chiefs team, and I couldn't believe the run by Carson Steele in the first time he touched the football wearing an NFL uniform. I mean, I don't know. The last time I saw or had a reaction of somebody carrying the football like that was Pacheco's rookie year. When Pacheco in preseason was like, oh, well, that's sort of different. He's just bouncing off defenders and, keeping his feet churning and picking up extra yards. So that's interesting because, we had been seeing Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a couple of years at that point. Oh, okay. There was some juice there behind that. And I had the same reaction with Carson Steele with, all of his runs. And certainly the touchdown was not an easy run to navigate and find the end zone there. And they reviewed it, and it was close, but the call stood. The fact that he can play fullback, the fact that he was playing running back and looked like that, and the Chiefs have used him more and more. And today in pads, Carson Steele was getting the first reps after Pacheco with the first team. That's typically been Deneric Prince this whole time. It's now Carson Steele. I mean, obviously the Chiefs like him. It's more and more that I'm going, this guy's going to be on the team. This guy's one of the 3/4 running backs that they're going to keep. If they keep 4 running backs, he's definitely on the team as a fullback. 3 running backs, 1 fullback. If they only keep 3 and no specific fullback, I still think there's a decent chance that he's on this team after Pacheco, maybe only after Pacheco. And then
Sure.
Prince or Clyde Edwards-Helaire are the ones that are fighting for that 3rd spot if they only keep 3 running backs.
I'm starting to think they keep just 4 in general. Whatever you label Steele as, I think they keep 4. I think part of it goes with Clyde and the unknown with the sickness he's been kind of going through and all that stuff. You want your 3rd stringer to be a guy that you can rely on. I mean, he's got to be available. Pacheco's had multiple injuries already in his young career. They want him for the playoffs. Playoff time, it's bell cow time. Regular season, they might ease back on his workload, and then Deneric Prince, we will see. I think you want to throw as many bodies, especially during the regular season, at that spot. I think he's a good guy you could probably use on obvious passing down situations. He's such a big body, known as a decent pass protector coming out of college. I think if it's like, 3rd and 12, well, don't put Pacheco out there. Go ahead and throw Carson Steele. Have him be Mahomes' bodyguard. That run reminded me actually not of Isaiah Pacheco. Good one, though. I was going to say, like, Christian Okoye. Like, I get it. He's not Christian Okoye. He's 20 pounds lighter than Christian. But he said he's up to 230 now. I mean, like, this is a big boy, Carson Steele. I think there's more than just – I don't want to label him as a fullback because I think that's almost doing him a disservice of what he would, 1, be used as, and 2, disservice to his skill set. If you want to label him as a 2003 NFL fullback, then sure. A guy who's going to take some carries, some handoffs, and also catch the ball to the backfield.
Well, Andy Reid, I was trying to find the quote. Andy Reid from last Thursday was asked specifically about Carson Steele and does he have a chance to make the team as a fullback? And he said he's a tweener, a heck of a running back. We're maneuvering to see if he can play fullback. We'll see about the numbers.
Yeah.
But I think that's where it's like, well, we're seeing if he can play running back or a fullback because he's already a pretty damn good running back. And if he's going to be able to play fullback for us, well, then he might have just got himself a spot on the team. And to hear Matt Nagy say, this is a guy that's in the right place at the right time and, quote, you can trust him. Like, how many times do you hear an offensive coordinator say that about a rookie in general, but a rookie running back? In that you got protections, you got audibles, you got blitzes, you got blitz pickup, you've got your regular running ability, you've got your routes that you have to also, be able to perform and catch the ball. And to say, well, no, you can trust this guy. Well, that goes a really long way because we'll see what the wide receivers look like. But I know there are a couple of guys on this team that the Chiefs cannot trust and don't trust. And whether that's Kadarius Toney, whether it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, whether it's whoever, I don't know. There are guys that you're like, well, I don't trust that guy's going to be at the right spot. Like Justin Ross, is he going to be at the right spot when he runs his route? We know he can make plays when it's a jump ball, but is he going to gain separation? And is he going to, be in the position he's supposed to be? Justin Watson, I know I can trust him. He's going to be exactly where he's supposed to be, which is his main role on the team. He will go and facilitate the offense. He is running this route, which can help out other routes because you at least have to worry about him, and his route helps out other different ways against this particular defense.
Sure.
And he knows where he's supposed to be, and that helps Mahomes know that this route for Justin Watson, if I'm not throwing to him, I know he's going to be in the spot he's supposed to be, which should open up this spot over here. Okay, there's value in that. You'd rather have a guy that can do that and also be Hollywood Brown.
Yes.
And not just, well, Hollywood Brown, you're going to put in Justin Watson because you trust him. But the Hollywood Brown injury, I think, costs somebody a job. And it might be Irv Smith.
Yep.
Because I think they're going to go with 7 wide receivers now. And I think McCole Hardman's on the team. I think he benefits the most with Hollywood Brown going down. And Carson Steele, if he's on the team and they stay with 3 running backs with Edwards-Helaire and Prince and Pacheco, and Carson Steele on fullback, or just 4 running backs.
4 backs.
Yeah, right. Then you would have Deneric Prince, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Carson Steele, and Irv Smith for 3 spots. You'd have those 4 guys battling over 3 spots. And when you've already got Kelsey, Gray, and Wiley, then maybe it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Irv Smith battling over 1 spot. And you're choosing between one of those guys.
Well, and by the way, that also, I'm assuming with that math, you're only keeping 9 offensive linemen.
Yeah, because I don't know who's the 10th.
Well,
like C.J. Hansen?
It would be C.J. Hansen. Would be the 10th.
Okay.
And you're hoping you can sneak the 7th rounder through.
Yeah, I can't imagine that C.J. Hansen, if he doesn't play much in
we played the most
in preseason.
Did he play the most?
He played a lot. Yeah,
I think it was the most of any player.
Yeah, but if he just looked like, is he going to make a 53-man roster?
Yeah,
like is somebody going to take the 7th rounder and go, well, we saw him with the Chiefs in preseason game. We're going to make him one of our 9 or 10 guys.
He played the most snaps of anyone, by the way. He played 90%, 56 snaps overall.
Yeah, he wasn't as bad as Norzad was on the first 2 reps that Norzad had as a professional, but what was it? C.J. Hansen. Oh, and Deneric Prince's first carry. C.J. Hansen ran right by the guy he was supposed to go and grab. He was supposed to block a linebacker. The guy ran right by him, and he turned around and then chased. I was like, well, that happens. All right, that's going to happen with some rookies. Okay, early on, Norzad got pushed around a little bit, early on. But I don't know that there are 10 offensive linemen that you go, yeah, you definitely have to keep that guy on the team because, 1, you're going to lose him to waivers, or 2, he's ready to play offensive line if need be.
I think there's 2 guys you can make the case for, Lucas Niang and C.J. Hansen. I think Hansen's the odd man out.
I think Niang's in the 9.
I have mine broken down. Niang's the 9th. And then C.J. Hansen's number 10. Because I think
me too.
Wanye, Norzad, and Caliendo are on. I think Niang's probably got he can play guard or tackle. He's in. And C.J. Hansen, I think, 7th rounder. Again, Hollywood Brown's injury might end up being the guy that loses an offensive lineman his spot.
Yeah, because I think Chu, Godric, and Hansen are on the outside looking in at those 9. If there's an injury, they might slide up. But right now, it's the starting 5, Wanya, Niang, Caliendo, and Norzad.
Damn, why do we agree? I don't like this.
Man, I hate it.
This hurts. This sucks.
Who are your 7 wide receivers then?
Well, it's going to be
Hollywood,
Rice, Worthy, Watson, Remigio, McCole Hardman because of the injury, and Sky Moore.
Those are my 7.
Yeah.
Well, this is dumb.
This kind of sucks.
Who are your 4 running backs?
No, we already have this. Who are your 2 quarterbacks?
I got Luis Rees-Ahmed starting. I got Imani Bailey coming off the bench. And Keontae Ingram are my 3.
It's pretty good.
And then they're bringing Tomlinson out of retirement to play.
Oh,
That's
LT?
the 4th one. Yeah.
Wow. Spencer Ware comeback.
I think I got it right.